Part 1, Chapter 1, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. In 1878, I finished my studies at the University of London. I became a medical doctor. I went to Netley to train as an army surgeon. After my training, I was an assistant surgeon for the 5th Northumberland Fusiliers. The regiment was in India. I joined them there, but the Second Afghan War had just started. When I arrived in Bombay, I learned that my group had already moved into enemy land. I followed with other officers. I went to a city called Kandahar and found my group. I started my work right away. The war was good for many people. They got honors and promotions, but for me, it was bad. I was moved to another group, the Berkshires. We were in a terrible battle. I was shot in the shoulder. The bullet broke my bone. I would have been captured, but a brave man named Murray, a soldier who helped me, saved me. He put me on a horse and took me to the safe British area. I was in a lot of pain and very tired from the war. I was sent to a hospital in a city called Peshawar. I started to feel better. I could walk around and sit outside. Then I got a serious sickness. My life was in danger for many months. When I finally got better, I was very weak. Doctors said I had to go back to England right away. I went home on a ship. I arrived in England a month later. My health was ruined. The government gave me 9 months to get better. I had no family in England. I was free, but I had very little money. So I went to London. I stayed in a hotel. I was spending my money too quickly. I realized I needed to change my life. I decided to leave the hotel and find a cheaper place to live. On that very day, I was at a bar. A young man named Stamford touched my shoulder. I knew him from my old medical school. It was good to see a friendly face in London. We were not close friends before, but I was happy to see him. I invited him to have lunch with me, and we took a taxi. Stamford looked at me and said, "What have you been doing? You are so thin and brown from the sun." I told him my story. We arrived at the restaurant, and I was finished talking. "Poor man," he said. "What are you doing now?" I said, "I am looking for a place to live. I want to find a nice place that doesn't cost too much." Stamford said, "That is interesting. You are the second person who told me that today." "Who was the first?" I asked. "A man who works at the hospital lab. He said this morning that he needed someone to share a nice room with. The rent was too expensive for one person." "Wow," I said. "I am the perfect person for him. I would rather have a roommate than live alone." Stamford looked at me strangely. He said, "You don't know Sherlock Holmes yet. Maybe you will not like living with him all the time." "Why? Is there something wrong with him?" I asked. "No, I didn't say that. He is a little strange. He is very interested in some sciences. He is a good man." "Is he a medical student?" I asked. "No, I don't know what he wants to do. He is good at anatomy and chemistry, but he has not taken medical classes. He studies strange things, but he knows many special facts. It would surprise his teachers." "Did you ask him what he was studying for?" I asked. "No, it is not easy to ask him questions, but sometimes he talks a lot when he wants to." "I would like to meet him," I said. "If I have a roommate, I want a quiet person. I am not strong enough for a lot of noise. I had enough in Afghanistan to last my whole life. How can I meet your friend?" "He is probably at the lab," my friend answered. "Sometimes he is not there for weeks. Other times he is there all day. If you want, we can go there after lunch." "Yes," I said. Then we talked about other things. As we went to the hospital, Stamford told me more about the man I might live with. "Don't be mad at me if you two don't get along," he said. "I only know him from meeting him in the lab. You said you wanted to meet him, so it is not my problem if you two do not like each other." "If we don't get along, we can just stop living together," I said. "It seems like you don't want to be involved. Is he a mean person?" I asked. "Don't hide it." "It is hard to say," he said with a laugh. "Holmes is too scientific for me. He seems cold. I think he would give a friend a little bit of poison just to see what would happen. Not to be mean, but just to know the effects. I think he would take it himself too. He really loves to know facts." "That is good," I said. "Yes, but it can be too much. He hits dead bodies with a stick in the dissecting room. That is very strange." "He hits dead bodies?" "Yes. He wants to know if you can get bruises after a person dies. I saw him with my own eyes." "And you said he is not a medical student?" I asked. "Number, I do not know why he studies these things. But here we are. You can decide what you think of him." We went through a small side door into the hospital. I knew this place well. We walked up the stairs and down a long hall. There was a low passage at the end. It led to the chemical lab. The room was big. It had many bottles everywhere. There were big tables with many test tubes and small gas lamps with blue flames. Only one student was in the room. He was working at a table. He heard us and turned around. He jumped up and shouted with happiness. "I found it! I found it!" he said to my friend. He ran to us with a test tube in his hand. "I found a chemical that only reacts to blood." He was as happy as if he had found gold. "Dr. Watson, Mr. Sherlock Holmes," said Stamford. He introduced us. "Hello," he said. He shook my hand strongly. "I see you have been to Afghanistan." "How do you know that?" I asked, very surprised. "Never mind," he said. He laughed to himself. "Now, the important thing is blood. Do you see how important this is?" "It is interesting, but not very useful," I said. "What?" "This is the most useful new thing in a long time. It helps solve crimes. It is a perfect test for blood stains. Come here." He grabbed my arm and pulled me to his table. "Let's get some fresh blood," he said. He pricked his finger with a pin and got a drop of blood. "Now I will add this little bit of blood to a liter of water. You see, the water looks clean. The blood is 1 part in a million, but the test will still work." He put some white crystals in the water. Then he added some clear liquid. The water turned a dark red-brown color. A brown powder went to the bottom of the glass. "Ha ha!" he shouted. He clapped his hands and looked as happy as a child with a new toy. "What do you think of that?" "It seems to be a very good test," I said. "It's beautiful, beautiful. The old tests were not good. Looking at blood with a microscope is not good if the blood is old. But my test works with old and new blood. If this test had been made before, hundreds of criminals would be in prison now." "Really?" I said. "Crime cases always depend on this point. A man is suspected of a crime months later. They look at his clothes and find brown stains. Are they blood, mud, rust, or fruit? This question has confused many experts. Why? Because there was no good test. Now we have the Sherlock Holmes test. There will be no more problems." His eyes shined as he spoke. He put his hand on his chest and bowed like he was in front of a big crowd. "I think you should be happy about this," I said. I was surprised by how excited he was. There was the case of von Bischoff in Germany last year. He would be in prison if this test existed. And Mason and Muller and Lefebvre and Sampson. I can name 20 cases where this test would have solved the crime. "You are like a book of crimes," Stamford said with a laugh. "You should start a newspaper. Call it The Police News of the Past." "That would be very interesting to read," Sherlock Holmes said. He put a small bandage on his finger. "I have to be careful," he said with a smile. "I work with poisons a lot." He showed me his hands. They had many small bandages and were dirty from chemicals. "We came here for something important," Stamford said. He sat on a stool and pushed another one to me. "My friend here wants to find a room, and you needed a roommate? I thought I should bring you together." Sherlock Holmes was happy about the idea of living with me. "I found a place in Baker Street," he said. "It would be perfect for us. Do you mind the smell of strong tobacco?" "I smoke a pipe myself," I answered. "Good. I usually have chemicals and do experiments. Will that bother you?" "Not at all. Let's see. What are my other problems? Sometimes I feel sad and don't talk for days. You must not think I am angry. Just leave me alone and I will be fine soon. What about you? It is good for two people to know the worst things about each other before they live together." I laughed at his questions. "I have a dog," I said, "and I don't like loud noise because my nerves are bad. I wake up at strange hours and I am very lazy. I have other bad habits when I am healthy, but these are the main ones now." "Do you think playing the violin is a problem?" he asked. "It depends on the player," I said. "A good player is a pleasure to listen to. A bad one—" "Oh, that's fine then," he said with a laugh. "I think we can agree to live together, that is, if you like the rooms." "When can we see them?" I asked. "Meet me here tomorrow at noon, and we can go together and decide everything," he said. "All right, at noon," I said. I shook his hand. We left him working. We walked toward my hotel. "By the way," I said, stopping and turning to Stamford, "how did he know I came from Afghanistan?" Stamford smiled a mysterious smile. "That is his little thing," he said. "Many people want to know how he knows things." "Oh, it is a mystery," I said. "This is very interesting. Thank you for introducing us. You know, we should study people." "You will study him then," Stamford said. "But he is a hard problem. I bet he will learn more about you than you will about him. Goodbye." "Goodbye," I said. I walked to my hotel, very interested in my new friend. Chapter 2. The Science of Deduction. The next day, we met as planned. We looked at the rooms at 221B Baker Street. They had 2 nice bedrooms and 1 large living room. The rooms were bright and cheerful. They had 2 big windows. The rooms were perfect. The price was good when we split it. We decided to take them right away. That evening, I moved my things from the hotel. The next morning, Sherlock Holmes moved his things in. For a few days, we were busy unpacking. Then we started to get used to our new home. Holmes was an easy person to live with. He was quiet and kept a regular routine. He rarely stayed up late, and he was always gone before I got up in the morning. Sometimes he worked at the chemistry lab. Sometimes he worked with dead bodies. Sometimes he took long walks in the poorest parts of the city. He had a lot of energy when he was working, but sometimes for days he would lie on the sofa. He would not say a word or move a muscle. His eyes looked empty and dreamy. I would have thought he was using drugs, but he was always so clean and never drank alcohol, so I knew he didn't. As the weeks passed, I became more interested in him. I wanted to know what he did for work. He was very tall and skinny. He looked taller than he was. He had sharp, smart eyes, except when he was lying on the sofa. His thin, sharp nose made him look smart and determined. His chin was strong and square. His hands were always dirty with ink and chemicals. But he was very good at using small, delicate tools. I often saw him using them. I know it sounds like I was nosy, but my life was very boring. My health was not good, so I could not go out when the weather was bad. I had no friends to visit me. I was happy to have a small mystery to solve in my life. I spent a lot of time trying to learn about him. He was not studying to be a doctor. He had told me this himself. He also did not seem to be studying for a science degree or any other kind of a degree. But he was very interested in some subjects. He knew a lot of very detailed information about strange things. I was shocked by what he knew. I thought, no one would work so hard unless they had a goal. People who read a lot usually do not remember all the small facts. No one fills their mind with small facts unless they have a good reason. His lack of knowledge was as surprising as his knowledge. He knew almost nothing about modern books, politics, or philosophy. I mentioned a writer named Thomas Carlyle. He asked who that was and what he did. I was most surprised when I found out he did not know that the earth goes around the sun. I could not believe a person in the 19th century did not know this. "You look surprised," he said, smiling. "Now that I know it, I will try to forget it." "To forget it?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "A person's brain is like a small, empty room. You can choose what to put inside. A stupid person puts in everything. The useful knowledge gets pushed out, or it gets mixed up, so it is hard to find. A smart person is careful about what they put in their brain. They only put in the tools they need for their work. They have a lot of tools and they are organized. People think their brain can hold anything, but it can't. You get to a point where every new fact pushes an old fact out. It is important to not have useless facts in your brain." "But the solar system," I said. "What good is it to me?" he said impatiently. "You say we go around the sun. If we went around the moon, it would not change my work at all." I almost asked him what his work was, but his face told me he did not want me to ask. I thought about what he said. He said he only learns things that are useful for his work, so everything he knows must be useful to him. I listed the things he knew a lot about. I wrote them down with a pencil. I laughed when I was finished. It looked like this. Sherlock Holmes's knowledge. 1. Literature? None. 2. Philosophy? None. 3. Astronomy? None. 4. Politics? Not much. 5. Plants? Good at some things, knows about poisons, knows nothing about gardening. 6. Geology? Good but limited, can tell where dirt comes from just by looking at it. After a walk, he would show me dirt on his pants. He could tell me where in London he got the dirt from the color. 7. Chemistry? Knows a lot. 8. Anatomy? Knows a lot, but not in a proper way. 9. Crime stories? Knows everything. He seems to know every detail of every terrible crime from the last 100 years. 10. Plays the violin well. 11. He is an expert at fencing, boxing, and sword fighting. 12. He knows a lot about British law. I looked at my list and threw it into the fire. I felt like it was hopeless. I thought to myself, how can I find out what this man does for a living? What job would need all these things? I should just give up. I mentioned that he was a good violin player, but his playing was as strange as everything else he did. I knew he could play difficult songs because he played some for me when I asked. But when he was alone, he would just sit in his chair with his eyes closed. He would play on his violin that was resting on his knees. He would play random notes. The sounds were sometimes sad. Sometimes they were happy. They showed how he felt. I did not know if the music helped him think or if he was just bored. I might have gotten angry at his music, but he would often finish by playing my favorite songs. For the first week, no one came to visit us. I thought he had no friends, just like me. But soon, I found out that he knew many different people. One little man with a long, thin face came 3 or 4 times a week. His name was Mr. Lestrade. One morning, a young woman came. She wore fashionable clothes. She stayed for half an hour. That afternoon, an older man came. He looked like a Jewish man who sold things. He looked very excited. A short time later, an older woman followed him. Another time, an old man with white hair came, and another time, a train station worker in his uniform came. When people came, Sherlock Holmes would ask to use the living room. I would go to my bedroom. He always said he was sorry to bother me. "I use this room for my work," he said. "These people are my clients." This was another chance to ask him what he did, but I did not want to push him to tell me. I thought he had a good reason for not telling me, but he soon brought up the topic himself. It was March 4th. I remember because I woke up earlier than usual. Sherlock Holmes had not finished his breakfast. Our landlady was used to me getting up late, so my breakfast was not ready. I was annoyed and rang the bell. I said I was ready to eat. I picked up a magazine to pass the time. Holmes was eating his toast. I saw a pencil mark on a story in the magazine and I started to read it. The story was called The Book of Life. It said a person could learn a lot about someone just by watching them. I thought it was a mix of clever and silly ideas. The writer said you could know a person's thoughts just by a small movement or a look in their eye. He said that a person who was good at observing could always tell if someone was lying. He said his ideas were always right. To a normal person, his ideas would seem magical. But it was just logic. The writer said, "A person who is good at logic can see a drop of water and guess that there are oceans and waterfalls, even if he has never heard of them. So all of life is a long chain. If you see one link, you know what the whole chain looks like. It is an art you must practice. A person cannot be perfect at it in one lifetime. Before you look at hard problems, you should start with simple ones. When you meet a person, you should try to learn their life story and their job. This might seem silly, but it helps you get better at observing. It teaches you what to look for. You can tell a person's job from their fingernails, their coat sleeves, their shoes, their pant knees, their hands, their face, and their shirt cuffs. You can always tell if you look at all of these things together." "What a lot of nonsense," I said. I slammed the magazine on the table. I have never read such foolishness. "What is it?" Sherlock Holmes asked. "This story," I said. I pointed to it with my egg spoon. I was now eating my breakfast. "I see you read it because it has a mark on it. It is well written, but it bothers me. It is a theory from someone who never leaves his chair. It is not practical. I want to see him on a train. I would ask him to tell me the jobs of all the people on the train. I would bet a lot of money that he could not do it." "You would lose your money," Sherlock Holmes said calmly. "I wrote the story." "You?" "Yes, I am good at observation and logic. The ideas in that story seem crazy to you, but they are very useful. They are so useful that I use them to make a living." "How?" I asked. "Well, I have my own job. I think I am the only one in the world. I am a consulting detective. When the government police get stuck, they come to me. I help them find the right answer. They give me all the information. I use my knowledge of past crimes to help them. Crimes are very similar. If you know how 1,000 crimes worked, you can solve the next one. Lestrade is a well-known police detective. He was confused about a crime, so he came to me." "What about the other people?" I asked. "They are sent to me by private companies. They are all people who have problems and need help. I listen to their story, they listen to my ideas, and then I get paid." "Do you mean to say that you can solve a difficult problem without leaving your room? Other people have seen everything and can't solve it. But you can?" "Yes. I have a natural ability. Sometimes a case is more difficult. Then I have to go out and look myself. I have a lot of special knowledge that helps me. Those rules of logic in the story you hated are very useful to me. I am very good at observing. You were surprised when I told you that you came from Afghanistan, but I knew. Someone told you? I said. No, he said. I knew you came from Afghanistan. My thoughts move so fast that I do not always realize every step, but they were there. I thought, this man looks like a doctor but acts like a soldier. He is a military doctor. His face is dark, but his wrists are not. He came from a hot place. He looks tired and sick. His left arm is hurt. He holds it in a strange way. Where would an English military doctor get sick and hurt his arm? Afghanistan, of course. This thought happened in 1 second. I told you that you came from Afghanistan and you were surprised. It seems simple when you explain it, I said, smiling. You remind me of a character named Dupin from a story. I thought people like that only existed in books. Sherlock Holmes got up and lit his pipe. I am sure you think you are giving me a compliment, he said. But Dupin was not very good, in my opinion. He would listen to people's thoughts and then say something clever. It was all a trick to seem smart. He was good at logic, but he was not as amazing as the writer thought. Have you read the books by Gaboriau? I asked. Is Lecoq a good detective? Sherlock Holmes laughed in a nasty way. Lecoq was a clumsy idiot, he said angrily. His only good quality was his energy. That book made me sick. The problem was to identify a prisoner. I could have done it in 24 hours. Lecoq took 6 months. That book should be used to teach detectives what not to do. I was angry that he spoke so badly about 2 characters I admired. I walked to the window and looked out. This guy might be smart, I thought to myself, but he is very full of himself. There are no good crimes or criminals these days, he said in a sad voice. Why do I need to be so smart? I know I can be famous. No one in the world has studied crime like me. And what happens? There are no good crimes to solve. Or the crimes are so simple that even a normal police officer can solve them. I was still angry at his rude way of talking. I thought it was best to change the subject. I wonder what that man is looking for, I said. I pointed to a big, well-dressed man who was walking slowly on the other side of the street. He was looking at the house numbers. He had a large blue envelope in his hand. You mean the retired Marine sergeant, Sherlock Holmes said. He is just being a show-off, I thought to myself. He knows I cannot prove him wrong. Just then, the man we were watching saw our house number. He ran across the street. We heard a loud knock and a deep voice. Then we heard heavy footsteps on the stairs. He came into the room. For Mr. Sherlock Holmes, he said. He gave the letter to my friend. This is my chance to prove him wrong, I thought. He did not think this would happen when he made that guess. May I ask you, my friend, I said in a nice voice, what is your job? I am a delivery man, sir, he said in a rough voice. My uniform is being cleaned. And you used to be? I asked, looking at Sherlock Holmes. A sergeant, sir, in the Royal Marines. No answer? Right, sir. He saluted us and left. Chapter 3. The Lauriston Gardens Mystery. I was surprised again. My respect for Holmes grew even more. I still thought he might have planned it all, but I did not know why he would do that. I looked at him. He had finished reading the note. His eyes looked empty again. He was thinking. How did you know that? I asked. Know what? He said impatiently. That he was a retired sergeant in the Marines. I do not have time for small things, he said. Then he smiled. Sorry for being rude. You interrupted my thoughts, but maybe it is good. So you really did not know that man was a sergeant in the Marines? No, I did not. It was easier to know than to explain. If you had to prove that 2 plus 2 is 4, it would be hard. But you know it is true. Even from across the street, I could see a big blue anchor on the back of his hand. That means he was on the sea. He stood like a soldier. He had side whiskers that soldiers have. So, he was a Marine. He also acted important and like a leader. You must have seen how he held his head and his cane. He was a steady, respectable, middle-aged man. All of these things made me believe he was a sergeant. Amazing, I said. It is simple, Holmes said. But I could tell from his face that he was happy I was surprised. I said there were no criminals, he said. I was wrong. Look at this. He threw me the note the man had brought. Wow, I said. This is terrible. It seems a little unusual, he said calmly. Would you read it to me out loud? I read the letter. Dear Mr. Sherlock Holmes, something bad happened last night at 3 Lauriston Gardens near Brixton Road. A police officer saw a light there at 2 in the morning. The house was empty, so he thought something was wrong. He found the door open. In the front room, which has no furniture, he found a dead body of a man. The man was well dressed. He had cards in his pocket with the name Enoch J. Drebber, Cleveland, Ohio, USA. Nothing was stolen. There is no sign of how he died. There is blood on the floor, but he has no wound. We do not know how he got into the empty house. The whole thing is a puzzle. If you can come to the house before noon, you will find me there. I have not touched anything. If you cannot come, I will give you more information. I would be very happy to get your opinion. Sincerely, Tobias Gregson. Gregson is the best detective at Scotland Yard, my friend said. He and Lestrade are the best of a bad group. They are both smart and full of energy, but they always do things the same way. They are jealous of each other. They are like 2 beauty pageant winners. This case will be interesting if they are both on it. I was surprised by how calm he was. We have to go now, I said. Should I get a taxi? I am not sure if I will go. I am the most lazy person you will ever meet, but sometimes I am full of energy. But this is the chance you wanted. My dear friend, what does it matter to me? If I solve the whole thing, Gregson, Lestrade, and the others will get all the credit. That is what happens when you are not an official police officer. But he is asking you to help him. Yes, he knows I am better than him, and he admits it to me. But he would never tell anyone else. But we might as well go and look. I will work it out on my own. I can laugh at them if nothing else happens. Come on. He put on his coat and moved quickly. He was full of energy now. Get your hat, he said. You want me to come? Yes, if you have nothing better to do. A minute later, we were in a taxi, rushing to Brixton Road. It was a foggy, gray morning. My friend was in a good mood. He talked about violins. I was quiet. The gray weather and the sad reason we were going made me feel bad. You do not seem to be thinking about this case, I said. I interrupted his talk about music. There are no facts yet, he said. It is a big mistake to guess before you have all the information. It changes your judgment. You will have facts soon, I said. I pointed with my finger. This is Brixton Road, and that is the house. Yes, it is. Driver, stop. We were 100 yards away, but he insisted we get out. We walked the rest of the way. Number 3, Lauriston Gardens looked bad. It was one of 4 houses. 2 were lived in, and 2 were empty. The empty ones had sad, blank windows. Some had for rent signs on them. A small garden with some sick-looking plants was in front of each house. The path was made of yellowish clay and gravel. The ground was wet from the rain. A 3-foot brick wall with a wooden fence was at the edge of the garden. A police officer was standing by the wall. Some people were looking over his shoulder, hoping to see something. I thought Sherlock Holmes would rush into the house, but he did not. He acted like he did not care. He walked up and down the street. He looked at the ground, the sky, and the houses. He then walked slowly down the path, on the grass next to it. He kept his eyes on the ground. He stopped twice. I saw him smile once. I heard him say he was happy. There were many footprints in the wet dirt, but the police had walked on it. I did not see how he could learn anything, but I had seen how good he was. I knew he could see things I could not. At the door, a tall man with a white face and blonde hair met us. He had a notebook. He rushed forward and shook Holmes's hand. "It is very nice of you to come," he said. "I have not touched anything." "Except for that?" my friend said. He pointed to the path. "If a herd of buffaloes had come through, it would not be a bigger mess. I am sure you had already learned what you needed to know before you let this happen." "I had so much to do inside the house," the detective said. "My colleague, Mr. Lestrade, is here. I trusted him to take care of this." Holmes looked at me and raised his eyebrows. "With 2 men like you and Lestrade, there will not be much for a third person to find out," he said. Gregson rubbed his hands together happily. "I think we did everything we could," he said. "It is a strange case. I knew you would like it." "You did not come in a taxi?" Sherlock Holmes asked. "No, sir." "What about Lestrade?" "No, sir." "Then let us go look at the room." He walked into the house, and Gregson followed him with a surprised look on his face. We walked down a short, empty, dusty hallway. There were 2 doors. One had been closed for weeks. The other was for the dining room. This was where the man had died. Holmes walked in, and I followed. I felt sad and quiet. It was a large, square room. It looked bigger because there was no furniture. The walls had ugly wallpaper. It was dirty and peeling off in places. There was a fake marble fireplace. There was a red candle on it. The window was so dirty that the light was gray. The whole room was covered in a thick layer of dust. I noticed all these things later. Now I was only looking at the dead man. He was lying on the floor. His eyes were open and staring at the dirty ceiling. He was about 43 or 44 years old. He was of medium height and had wide shoulders. He had short, curly black hair and a short beard. He was wearing a nice black coat and pants. His hands were clenched. His arms were spread out. His legs were crossed. It looked like he had fought very hard before he died. His face was full of horror and hatred. I had never seen a face like it. His face was twisted in a terrible way. With his low forehead and strong jaw, he looked like a monkey. I have seen many dead people, but I had never seen anything so frightening. Lestrade, who was thin and nervous, was standing by the door. He greeted us. "This case will be big, sir," he said. "I have never seen anything like it." "Are there any clues?" Gregson asked. "None at all," Lestrade said. Sherlock Holmes went to the body. He knelt down and looked at it closely. "Are you sure there is no wound?" he asked. He pointed to the blood on the floor. "We are positive," both detectives said. "Then the blood must be from another person," Holmes said. "Probably the killer. This reminds me of the death of Van Jansen in 1834. Do you remember that case, Gregson?" "No, sir." "You should read about it. There is nothing new in the world. It has all happened before." While he spoke, his fingers were moving quickly. He felt, pressed, and examined the man. His eyes had a far-off look. He did his work so fast that you would not know how much detail he was looking at. He sniffed the dead man's lips and looked at the bottom of his shoes. "Has he been moved at all?" he asked. "Only what was necessary for our investigation." "You can take him away now," he said. "There is nothing more to learn here." Gregson had a stretcher and 4 men ready. They came in and lifted the body. As they lifted him, a ring fell and rolled across the floor. Lestrade picked it up. His eyes were full of surprise. "A woman was here," he said. "It is a woman's wedding ring." He held it in his hand. We all looked at it. It was a simple gold ring. It had been on a woman's finger. "This makes things more difficult," Gregson said. "They were already complicated." "Are you sure it does not make them simpler?" Holmes said. "There is nothing to learn by looking at it. What did you find in his pockets?" "We have everything here," Gregson said. He pointed to a pile of things on the stairs. A gold watch, a heavy gold chain, a gold ring, a gold pin, a card case with cards of Enoch J. Drebber. The initials on his clothes match. No wallet, but he had £7 in cash. A book with the name Joseph Stangerson inside. 2 letters, one for Drebber and one for Stangerson. "At what address?" "American Exchange, Strand." "They were waiting there to be picked up. They are from a shipping company. It looks like the man was going back to New York." "Have you looked for this Stangerson?" "Yes, sir," Gregson said. "I put ads in the newspapers. One of my men went to the American Exchange. He has not come back yet." "Have you sent a telegram to Cleveland?" "Yes, this morning." "What did you say?" "We just told them what happened. We asked for any information that would help." "Did you ask for specific information about anything important?" "I asked about Stangerson." "Nothing else?" "Is there nothing in this case that seems important? Will you send another telegram?" "I have said everything I have to say," Gregson said. He was offended. Sherlock Holmes laughed to himself. He was about to say something, but Lestrade came back into the room. He had been in the front room. He was rubbing his hands together. He looked proud. "Mr. Gregson," he said, "I just found something very important, something that would have been missed if I had not looked carefully at the walls." His eyes were shining. He was happy to be better than Gregson. "Come here," he said. We followed him into the room. It felt less scary now that the body was gone. "Stand there," he said. He lit a match and held it to the wall. "Look at that," he said happily. The wallpaper had peeled off in one corner. There was a bare, yellow space. On the wall was a single word written in blood. Raish. "What do you think of that?" Lestrade asked. He was like a showman. This was in the darkest corner. No one thought to look there. The killer wrote it with his or her own blood. Look at the smear where it ran down the wall. This proves it was not a suicide. Why did they choose that corner? I will tell you. See the candle on the fireplace? It was lit. That corner would have been the brightest place in the room. "What does it mean now that you found it?" Gregson asked. "It means the writer was going to write the name Rachel, but was interrupted. Remember my words. When this case is solved, you will find a woman named Rachel was involved. It is okay for you to laugh, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. You might be very smart, but the old dog is the best in the end." "I am sorry," my friend said. He had been laughing. "You are right. You were the first to find this. And as you say, it looks like it was written by the person who was here last night. I have not had time to look at this room, but with your permission, I will do it now." He took out a tape measure and a magnifying glass from his pocket. He moved around the room quietly. He stopped, knelt, and even lay on the floor once. He was so focused. He seemed to have forgotten we were there. He talked to himself the whole time. He made little sounds of hope and happiness. As I watched him, he reminded me of a hunting dog. It moves back and forth, whining, until it finds the trail. For over 20 minutes he looked for clues. He measured distances between marks I could not see. He used his tape on the walls in a strange way. In one spot, he picked up a small pile of gray dust and put it in an envelope. Finally, he looked at the word on the wall with his glass. He looked at every letter very carefully. He seemed satisfied. He put his tools away. "They say a genius is a person who works hard forever," he said with a smile. "That is a bad definition, but it is true for detective work." Gregson and Lestrade watched him. They were curious, but they also thought he was strange. They did not understand that his smallest actions had a purpose. I had started to understand this. "What do you think of it, sir?" they both asked. "It would be unfair to you if I helped," my friend said. "You are doing so well. It would be a shame for anyone to interfere." He was being sarcastic. "If you let me know how your investigation goes," he said, "I will be happy to help. In the meantime, I would like to talk to the police officer who found the body. Can you give me his name and address?" Lestrade looked at his notebook. "John Rance," he said. "He is not working now. You will find him at 46 Audley Court." Holmes wrote down the address. "Come on, doctor," he said. "We will go find him." "I will tell you one thing that might help you," he said. He turned to the two detectives. "A murder happened. The killer was a man. He was over 6 feet tall. He was in his best years. He had small feet for his height. He wore big square-toed boots. He smoked a Trichinopoly cigar. He came here with the man in a 4-wheeled taxi. The horse had 3 old shoes and 1 new one on its front left leg. The killer probably had a red face. His right-hand fingernails were very long. These are just some things, but they might help you." Lestrade and Gregson looked at each other and smiled. They did not believe him. "If he was murdered, how was it done?" Lestrade asked. "Poison," Sherlock Holmes said. He walked toward the door. "One more thing, Lestrade," he added. He turned around. "Rach is the German word for revenge, so do not look for a Miss Rachel." With that, he left. The two detectives stood there with their mouths open. Chapter 4. What John Rance Had to Tell. We left the house at 1 o'clock. Sherlock Holmes led me to a telegraph office. He sent a long message. Then he called a taxi. He told the driver to take us to the address Lestrade gave us. "There is nothing better than seeing things for yourself," he said. "I have already solved the case in my mind, but we should still get all the information we can." "You are amazing, Holmes," I said. "You cannot be so sure about all the things you said before." "There is no chance for a mistake," he said. "When we arrived, the first thing I saw was that a taxi had made 2 deep tracks in the dirt near the street. We have not had rain for a week, so the taxi must have been there last night. I also saw the horse's footprints. The mark from one hoof was much clearer than the others. This means it had a new shoe. The taxi was there after the rain started and was not there this morning. Gregson told me this. So, the taxi was there during the night. It brought those 2 people to the house." "That seems simple enough," I said. "But what about the other man's height?" "You can tell a person's height from the length of their step in most cases. It is a simple calculation. I will not bore you with the numbers. I saw his steps in the dirt outside and the dust inside. I also had another way to check. When a person writes on a wall, they write at the level of their eyes. The writing was just over 6 feet from the ground. It was very easy to know. And his age? I asked. If a man can step over a puddle that is 4.5 feet wide without trying, he is not old. A person wearing shiny shoes walked around the puddle, but the other person, with the square-toed boots, hopped over it. There is no mystery. I am just using the same rules of observation that I wrote about in my story. Is there anything else that you do not understand? The fingernails and the cigar, I said. The writing on the wall was done with a finger dipped in blood. My magnifying glass showed me that the wall was scratched when he wrote. This would not happen if the man's fingernails were trimmed. I picked up some scattered ash from the floor. It was dark and flaky. Only a Trichinopoly cigar has that kind of ash. I have studied cigar ashes. I even wrote a book about it. I can tell the ash of any cigar or tobacco just by looking. This is how a skilled detective is different from Gregson and Lestrade. What about the red face? I asked. That was a guess, but I am sure I am right. You will have to wait for the answer. I rubbed my forehead. My head is spinning, I said. The more I think about it, the more confusing it is. How did the 2 men get into an empty house? Where did the taxi driver go? How could one man force another to take poison? Where did the blood come from? Why did the killer do it, since nothing was stolen? Why was a woman's ring there? And most importantly, why did the second man write the German word Reich before he left? I do not see how all these things can be connected. My friend smiled. You have summed up the problems very well, he said. There is still a lot we do not know, but I am sure about the main facts. Lestrade's discovery was just a trick. It was meant to make the police think it was about a political group. The person who wrote it was not German. The letter A, if you noticed, was written in a German style, but a real German would always write in a different way. So, it was not written by a German. It was written by someone who was trying to pretend. It was a lie to send the police in the wrong direction. I am not going to tell you much more about the case, Doctor. If I tell you all my secrets, you will think I am just a normal person after all. I will never think that, I said. You have made detective work a science. My friend was happy with my words. I had already noticed that he liked compliments about his work, just like a girl likes compliments about her beauty. I will tell you one more thing, he said. The person with the shiny shoes and the person with the square-toed boots came in the same taxi. They walked down the path together, probably arm in arm. When they got inside, they walked back and forth in the room. Or rather, the person with the shiny shoes stood still while the other person walked back and forth. I could see all of this in the dust. I could also see that as he walked, he got more and more angry. His steps got longer and longer. He was talking the whole time, and he worked himself into a rage. Then the death happened. I have told you all I know for sure. The rest is just me guessing, but we have a good start. We must hurry. I want to go to a concert this afternoon to hear Norman Neruda play the violin. While we were talking, our taxi was going through long, dirty streets. The taxi stopped in the dirtiest of them. That is Audley Court, the driver said. He pointed to a narrow space between the houses. I will be here when you get back. Audley Court was not a nice place. The narrow passage led to a small square. There were dirty houses all around. We walked through groups of children and lines of old clothes. We found number 46. The name Rance was on the door. We found out that the officer was in bed. We waited for him in a small living room. He came in, a little annoyed that we had woken him up. I already gave my report to the office. he said. Holmes took a small gold coin out of his pocket. "We wanted to hear it all from you," he said. "I will be happy to tell you what I can," the officer said. His eyes were on the gold coin. "Just tell us what happened in your own words." Rance sat on the sofa. He frowned, trying to remember every detail. "I will tell you from the beginning," he said. "My shift is from 10 at night to 6 in the morning. At 11, there was a fight. But other than that, it was quiet. At 1 o'clock, it started to rain. I met another officer, Harry Murcher, and we stood and talked. At about 2 o'clock, I decided to check Brixton Road. It was very dirty and lonely. I did not see anyone. I was walking and thinking about how good a hot drink would be. Suddenly, I saw a light in the window of that house. I knew those 2 houses in Lauriston Gardens were empty because the owner would not fix the drains. The last person who lived there died of a sickness. So I was surprised to see a light. I knew something was wrong. When I got to the door, "You stopped and walked back to the garden gate," my friend said. "Why did you do that?" Rance jumped. He stared at Holmes. "That is true, sir," he said. "I do not know how you know that. You see, when I got to the door, it was so quiet and lonely. I thought I needed someone with me. I am not afraid of anything, but I thought maybe it was the ghost of the man who died. That scared me a little. I walked back to the gate to see if I could see Murcher, but he was not there, and no one else was either." "Was the street empty?" "Not a soul, sir, not even a dog." Then I got control of myself. I went back and pushed the door open. It was quiet inside. I went into the room where the light was. A red candle was lit on the fireplace. I saw— Yes, I know what you saw. You walked around the room several times. You knelt down by the body. Then you went and tried the kitchen door, and then— John Rance stood up. His face was full of fear and suspicion. "Where were you hiding to see all that?" he shouted. "You know more than you should." Holmes laughed. He threw his card to the officer. "Do not arrest me for murder," he said. "I am on your side, not the killer's. Mr. Gregson and Mr. Lestrade will tell you that. Go on. What did you do next?" Rance sat down, still confused. I went back to the gate and blew my whistle. That brought Murcher and 2 more officers. Was the street empty then? Well, as far as useful people go, yes. "What do you mean?" The officer smiled. "I have seen many drunk people," he said, "but never one so very drunk as that man. He was at the gate when I came out. He was singing loudly. He could not stand up, so he could not help." "What did he look like?" Sherlock Holmes asked. Rance seemed a little annoyed by the question. "He was a very drunk man," he said. "He would have been arrested if we had not been so busy." "His face? His clothes? Did you notice them?" Holmes asked impatiently. "Yes, I did." I had to hold him up with Murcher. He was a tall man with a red face. The bottom part of his face was covered. "That is enough," Holmes said. "What happened to him?" "We were too busy to look after him," the officer said angrily. "I am sure he found his way home." "How was he dressed?" "A brown coat." "Did he have a whip?" "A whip? No." "He must have left it," my friend said. "Did you see or hear a taxi after that?" "No." "Here is a gold coin for you," my friend said. He stood up and took his hat. "I am afraid, Rance, that you will never be promoted. Your head is for looks, not for thinking. You could have been a sergeant last night. The man you held in your hands is the man we are looking for. There is no need to argue. It is true. Come, doctor." We left for the taxi. The officer did not believe him, but he looked worried. "That bumbling fool," Holmes said. We were in the taxi on our way home. To think he had such a great chance and did not take it. I am still a little confused. It is true that this man's description fits your idea of the second person. But why would he come back to the house? Criminals do not do that. The ring, my friend, the ring. That is why he came back. If we cannot catch him any other way, we can use the ring to find him. I will catch him, Doctor. I bet you 2-1 that I will. I have to thank you. I might not have gone if not for you, and I would have missed the best case I have ever seen. A study in Scarlet, you know. The red thread of murder runs through the white yarn of life. Our job is to unravel it and show every piece. Now, let us go get lunch. Then we can listen to Norman Neruda play. She is wonderful. What is that Chopin song she plays so well? Tra-la-la-lira-lira-lay. My friend was singing happily in the taxi. I thought about how strange and complex the human mind is. Chapter 5. Our advertisement brings a visitor. The long morning had been too much for me. My health was not good. I was very tired in the afternoon. After Holmes left for his concert, I lay down on the sofa to get some sleep. But it did not work. My mind was too excited. I kept thinking about what happened. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the dead man's face. It was such a scary face. I felt grateful for the person who had killed him. The face of Enoch J. Drebber looked so evil, but I knew that justice must be done. The law does not care if the victim was a bad person. The more I thought about it, the more strange Holmes's idea about poison seemed. I remembered him sniffing the man's lips. I was sure he had smelled something. If it was not poison, how did the man die? He had no wounds or marks of being choked. But then, whose blood was on the floor? There was no sign of a fight. The victim did not have a weapon to hurt someone. I knew that neither Holmes nor I would be able to sleep until we had answers. Holmes's calm and confident manner made me think he had already figured out a lot of it. I had no idea what his theory was. He came home very late. I knew the concert could not have taken all that time. Dinner was on the table when he arrived. "It was wonderful," he said as he sat down. "Do you remember what Darwin said about music? He said that humans could make and enjoy music before they could speak. Maybe that is why it affects us so much. Our souls remember those ancient times when the world was young." "That is a very big idea," I said. "Our ideas must be as big as nature to understand nature," he said. "What is wrong? You do not look well. The Brixton Road case has upset you." "To be honest, it has," I said. "I should be tougher after my time in the army. I saw my own friends get killed without getting upset." "I understand," he said. "This case is a mystery, and it makes you use your imagination. When there is no imagination, there is no horror. Have you read the evening newspaper?" "No. It has a good story about the case. But it does not say that a woman's wedding ring fell out when the body was lifted. It is better that it does not." "Why?" "Look at this advertisement," he said. "I had one sent to every newspaper this morning." He threw the paper to me. I looked at the found section. "In Brixton Road this morning," it read, "a plain gold wedding ring found in the road between the White Hart and Holland Grove. Please contact Dr. Watson, 221B Baker Street, between 8 and 9 this evening. Sorry for using your name," he said. "If I used my own, some of the stupid police would know it. They would want to get involved." "That is okay," I said. "But what if someone comes? I do not have a ring?" "Yes, you do," he said. He gave me a ring. "This will work. It is almost exactly the same." And who do you think will answer this ad? The man in the brown coat, our red-faced friend with the square-toed boots. If he does not come himself, he will send someone else. But would he not think it is too dangerous? Not at all. If my idea is correct, and I believe it is, this man would risk anything to get the ring back. I think he dropped it when he was bending over the body. He did not notice at the time. After he left the house, he realized it was gone. He went back, but the police were there because he was a fool and left the candle burning. He pretended to be drunk so the police would not suspect him. Now, think like him. He would think he might have lost the ring in the road after he left the house. What would he do? He would look at the newspapers to see if it was found. He would see this ad. He would be very happy. Why would he think it is a trap? He would not see any reason why finding the ring would be connected to the murder. He will come. You will see him within an hour. And then, I asked, you can leave that to me. Do you have a weapon? I have my old army pistol and some bullets. You should clean it and load it. He is a dangerous man. I will surprise him, but it is good to be ready for anything. I went to my room. When I came back with the pistol, the table was cleared. Holmes was playing his violin. The story is getting more interesting, he said. I just got an answer to my message from America. My idea is right. And what is that? I asked eagerly. My violin needs new strings, he said. Put your pistol in your pocket. When he comes, speak to him normally. Leave the rest to me. Do not scare him by staring. It is 8 o'clock, I said, looking at my watch. Yes, he will probably be here in a few minutes. Open the door a little. That is good. Now put the key on the inside. Thank you. I bought this old book yesterday. It is in Latin and was published in 1642. The King of England's head was still on his shoulders when this book was made. Who printed it? Philippe de Croix. I wonder who he was. On the first page it says, "From the books of William White." I wonder who he was. Maybe a lawyer from the 1600s. His writing looks like a lawyer's writing. I think our man is here. As he spoke, the doorbell rang loudly. Holmes stood up and moved his chair to the door. We heard the maid walk to the door and open it. "Does Dr. Watson live here?" a clear but rough voice asked. We could not hear the maid's answer. The door closed, and someone started to walk up the stairs. The footsteps were slow and shuffling. A look of surprise came over Holmes's face. The steps came slowly down the hall. There was a light knock on the door. "Come in," I said. A very old woman walked in. She was not the violent man we expected. The bright light seemed to hurt her eyes. She bowed to us. She was blinking and fumbling in her pocket with shaky fingers. I looked at Holmes. He looked so sad and disappointed. I tried not to laugh. The old woman took out a newspaper and pointed at the ad. "This is why I am here," she said. She bowed again. "A gold wedding ring in Brixton Road. It belongs to my girl Sally. She was married a year ago. Her husband is a ship steward. I do not know what he will say if he comes home and she does not have her ring. He is often angry, especially when he drinks. If you please, she went to the circus last night with—" "Is that her ring?" I asked. "Thank God," the old woman said. "Sally will be happy tonight. That is the ring." "And what is your address?" I asked. I picked up a pencil. 13 Duncan Street, Houndsditch. It is a long way from here. Brixton Road is not between any circus and Houndsditch, Sherlock Holmes said sharply. The old woman turned and looked at him. "The gentleman asked for my address," she said. "Sally lives at 3 Mayfield Place, Peckham. And what is your name?" "My name is Sawyer. Her name is Dennis. Tom Dennis married her. He is a good man at sea, but when he is on land, he is with women and liquor shops." "Here is your ring, Mrs. Sawyer," I said. Holmes made a sign for me to give it to her. "It is your daughter's ring. I am happy to give it back." The old woman mumbled thank you and put the ring in her pocket. She shuffled down the stairs. Holmes jumped up and ran into his room. He came back a few seconds later wearing a coat and a scarf. "I will follow her," he said quickly. "She must be working with him. She will lead me to him. Wait for me." The front door closed behind her just as Holmes went down the stairs. I looked out the window. I saw her walking slowly. Holmes followed her from a distance. Either his whole idea is wrong, I thought, or he is about to find the answer. I knew I could not sleep until he came back. He left at 9 o'clock. I did not know how long he would be gone. I sat and smoked my pipe. I read a book. 10 o'clock passed and I heard the maid go to bed. 11 o'clock and I heard the landlady go to bed. It was almost midnight when I heard his key in the door. I saw his face the moment he came in. He had not succeeded. He looked both amused and angry. Then he laughed. "I would not want the police to know this," he said. He sat in his chair. "I have made fun of them so much. They would never let me hear the end of it. I can laugh because I know I will win in the end." "What happened?" I asked. "Oh, I do not mind telling a story about myself." She walked a little way, and then she started to limp. She was acting like her feet hurt. She stopped and called a taxi. I was close enough to hear her address. She shouted it out loud. "Drive to 13 Duncan Street, Houndsditch," she cried. I thought, this seems real. I followed the taxi. Every detective should know how to do that. We got to the street. I jumped off the taxi before it stopped. I walked casually down the street. I saw the taxi stop. The driver got out and opened the door. He was waiting, but no one came out. When I got to him, he was looking for her in the empty taxi. He was cursing a lot. She was gone. I do not think he will get his money. I asked at number 13. The house belongs to a wallpaper maker. No one with the name Sawyer or Dennis has ever lived there. "Are you telling me," I said, "that the old woman was able to get out of the taxi while it was moving, and you and the driver did not see her?" "That was not an old woman," Sherlock Holmes said sharply. "We were the fools. It must have been a young, strong man, and a great actor. The costume was perfect. He saw that I was following him. He used this trick to get away. This means that the man we are looking for is not alone. He has friends who are willing to take risks for him. Now, Doctor, you look tired. You should go to bed." I was very tired, so I did what he said. I left Holmes sitting in front of the fire. I heard the sad sound of his violin late into the night. I knew he was still thinking about the strange problem he had to solve. Chapter 6. Tobias Gregson shows what he can do. The next day, the newspapers were full of the Brixton mystery. They all wrote about it. Some of them had extra articles, too. The newspapers had some information I did not know. I still have many papers about the case. The newspaper called the Daily Telegraph said this was a strange crime. They thought the dead man's German name and the words on the wall meant political groups did it. They believed the man broke their rules, so they killed him. The newspaper said the government should watch foreigners in England more closely. The newspaper called the Standard wrote that these kinds of crimes happen when a liberal government is in charge. It makes people's minds confused. The dead man was an American gentleman named Drebber. He had been staying in London for a few weeks. He stayed at a boarding house with his secretary, Mr. Joseph Stangerson. The two men left on a Tuesday. They said they were going to Liverpool by train. People saw them at the train station. No one saw them again until Mr. Drebber's body was found in an empty house. No one knows where Mr. Stangerson is. The newspaper was happy that Mr. Lestrade and Mr. Gregson from Scotland Yard were on the case. They believed these famous officers would solve the mystery soon. The newspaper called the Daily News said it was a political crime. It said the governments in other countries were not free. This made many people come to England. These people had a special rule. If you broke it, you died. The newspaper said the police needed to find the secretary, Mr. Stangerson. They also needed to learn about the dead man's life. The newspaper said Mr. Gregson found the address of the boarding house. This was a great step forward in the case. Sherlock Holmes and I read the articles at breakfast. They made him laugh. "I told you that Lestrade and Gregson would get the credit," he said. "That depends on what happens," I answered. "Oh, it does not matter," he said. "If they catch the man, it will be because they worked hard. If he gets away, it will be in spite of their work. They always win. An idiot always finds a bigger idiot who likes him." "What is this?" I asked. I heard many steps and voices in the hall and on the stairs. Our landlady sounded angry. "It is the Baker Street Detective Police," Holmes said. 6 dirty boys ran into the room. "Attention," Holmes said loudly. The boys stood in a line. "From now on, only Wiggins should come up to report. The rest of you must wait outside. Did you find it, Wiggins?" "No, sir, we did not," said one of the boys. "I did not think you would. You must keep looking. Here is your money." He gave each of them a shilling. "Now, go. Come back with a better report next time." He waved his hand and they ran downstairs like rats. We heard their loud voices in the street. "One of those boys can do more work than 12 police officers," Holmes said. "When people see a police officer, they stop talking. But these boys go everywhere and hear everything. They are very smart, too. They only need to be organized." "Are you using them for the Brixton case?" I asked. "Yes. There is one thing I want to know. It will take some time. Oh, look, we are going to get some news now. Here comes Gregson. He looks very happy. He is coming to our door. Yes, he is stopping. There he is." The doorbell rang loudly. A few seconds later, the detective with blonde hair came up the stairs. He came into our room. "My dear friend," he cried. He shook Holmes's hand, but Holmes did not shake back. "Congratulate me. I have made everything clear." I thought Holmes looked a little worried. "Do you mean you are on the right path?" he asked. "The right path? We have the man in jail." "And his name is?" "Arthur Charpentier. He is an officer in the Navy," Gregson said. He rubbed his hands and puffed out his chest. Holmes looked happy and smiled. "Sit down and have a cigar," he said. "We want to know how you did it. Would you like some whiskey and water?" "Yes, thank you," the detective said. "The hard work I have done has made me tired. Not my body, but my mind. You understand, Mr. Sherlock Holmes? We both use our brains." "You are too kind," Holmes said. "Tell us how you got this wonderful result." The detective sat in a chair and smoked his cigar. Then he slapped his leg and laughed. "The funny thing is," he said, "that fool Lestrade thinks he is so smart. But he is looking for the wrong man. He is after the secretary, Stangerson. Stangerson had nothing to do with the crime. I am sure Lestrade has caught him by now." Gregson laughed until he could not breathe. "And how did you get your clue?" I asked. "Oh, I will tell you everything. Of course, Dr. Watson, this is a secret between us. The first problem was finding out about this American man. Some people would have waited for answers to their advertisements. That is not how Tobias Gregson works. Do you remember the hat next to the dead man?" "Yes," Holmes said. "It was from John Underwood and Sons, 129 Camberwell Road." Gregson looked sad. "I did not know you saw that," he said. Have you been there? No. Ha! Gregson said, looking happy again. You should never forget a chance, even a small one. For a great mind, nothing is small, Holmes said. Well, I went to Underwood. I asked him if he had sold a hat like that. He looked in his books and found it. He had sent the hat to a Mr. Drebber. He lived at Charpentier's boarding establishment in Torquay Terrace. That is how I got his address. Smart, very smart, Holmes said quietly. Next, I went to see Madame Charpentier, the detective continued. She was very pale and worried. Her daughter was in the room too. She is a very pretty girl. Her eyes were red and her lips shook when I spoke to her. I noticed that. I began to think something was wrong. You know that feeling, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, when you find the right path. It is a thrill. Have you heard about the strange death of your boarder, Mr. Enoch J. Drebber? I asked. The mother nodded. She could not speak. The daughter started crying. I knew more than ever that they knew something. What time did Mr. Drebber leave your house for the train? I asked. At 8 o'clock, she said. She was trying not to be upset. His secretary, Mr. Stangerson, said there were 2 trains, one at 9:15 and one at 11. He was going to take the first one. And was that the last time you saw him? The woman's face changed. It was very pale. It took her a few seconds to say the word yes. When she did, her voice was low and strange. It was silent for a moment. Then the daughter spoke in a clear voice. Lying is not good, Mother, she said. Let us be honest with this gentleman. We did see Mr. Drebber again. God forgive you, Madame Charpentier cried. She threw her hands up and fell back in her chair. You have killed your brother. Arthur would want us to tell the truth, the girl said. You should tell me everything now, I said. Telling only some of the story is worse than telling none. Also, you do not know how much we already know. This is your fault, Alice, her mother cried. Then she turned to me. I will tell you everything, sir. My son is completely innocent. I am only worried that you and others will think he did something wrong, but that is impossible. His good character and his job would stop him from doing such a thing. The best thing to do is tell the whole story, I said. If your son is innocent, he will be fine. Maybe, Alice, you should leave us alone, she said. Her daughter left the room. Now, sir, she continued, I did not want to tell you this, but since my poor daughter has, I have no choice. Since I have decided to speak, I will tell you everything without leaving anything out. That is the best thing to do, I said. Mr. Drebber stayed with us for almost 3 weeks. He and his secretary, Mr. Stangerson, had been traveling. I saw a Copenhagen sticker on their bags. That showed it was their last stop. Mr. Stangerson was a quiet man, but his boss, I am sad to say, was not. He was rude and a little crazy. The night he arrived, he drank too much. After noon, he was almost never sober. His behavior to the maids was rude. Worst of all, he was the same way with my daughter, Alice. He said things to her that she was too innocent to understand. One time, he even grabbed her and held her. His own secretary told him his behavior was not good. But why did you allow this? I asked. I thought you could ask your boarders to leave whenever you wanted. Mrs. Charpentier blushed. I wish I had told him to leave the first day he came, she said. But it was a hard decision. They were paying a lot of money. I am a widow, and my son in the Navy costs me a lot. I did not want to lose the money. I tried to do my best, but the last time was too much. I told him to leave. That is why he was going. And then? I asked. I felt so much better when I saw him leave. My son is home on leave right now. I did not tell him what happened. He is very hot-headed, and he loves his sister very much. When I closed the door, I felt like a weight was lifted from my mind. But in less than an hour, the doorbell rang. I learned that Mr. Drebber had come back. He was very angry and had been drinking. He pushed his way into the room where my daughter and I were sitting. He said he had missed his train. Then he turned to Alice. Right in front of me, he asked her to run away with him. "You are old enough," he said, "and there is no law to stop you. I have a lot of money. Do not worry about the old woman. Come with me now. You will live like a princess." Poor Alice was so scared that she backed away from him, but he grabbed her arm and tried to pull her to the door. I screamed. At that moment, my son Arthur came into the room. I do not know what happened next. I heard yelling and fighting. I was too scared to look up. When I did, I saw Arthur standing in the doorway laughing. He had a stick in his hand. "I do not think that man will bother us again," he said. "I am going to go after him and see what he does." With those words, he took his hat and left. The next morning, we heard about Mr. Drebber's strange death. Mrs. Charpentier said all of this with many stops and starts. Sometimes she spoke so quietly that I could hardly hear her, but I wrote everything down. I did not want to make any mistakes. "That is exciting," Sherlock Holmes said with a yawn. "What happened next?" "When Mrs. Charpentier stopped talking," the detective continued, "I knew the whole case depended on one thing. I looked at her in a way that I know works with women. I asked her what time her son returned home. "I do not know," she answered. "You do not know?" "No, he has a key, and he let himself in." "After you went to bed?" "Yes." "When did you go to bed?" "About 11. So your son was gone for at least 2 hours?" "Yes." "Maybe 4 or 5? "Yes." "What was he doing during that time?" "I do not know," she said. Her lips were white. After that, there was nothing more to do. I found out where Lieutenant Charpentier was. I took 2 police officers with me and arrested him. When I touched his shoulder and told him to come with us, he was not scared at all. "I guess you are arresting me for being part of that bad man Drebber's death," he said. We had not said anything about it, so his saying that was very suspicious. "Very," Holmes said. "He still had the heavy stick his mother said he had when he followed Drebber. It was a thick oak stick." "What is your idea about what happened?" Holmes asked. "Well, my idea is that he followed Drebber to Brixton Road. When they were there, they fought again. Drebber was hit with the stick in his stomach. Maybe that killed him without leaving a mark. It was raining, so no one was there. So Charpentier dragged the body into the empty house. As for the candle, the blood, the writing on the wall, and the ring, they may all be tricks to confuse the police." "Good job," Holmes said. "Really, Gregson, you are making progress. We will make something of you yet." "I think I have done a very good job," the detective said proudly. The young man said that after following Drebber for some time, Drebber saw him. He took a taxi to get away. On his way home, he met an old friend from the Navy. They went for a long walk. When I asked him where his friend lived, he could not give a good answer. I think the whole case fits together very well. I find it funny to think about Lestrade. He has gone after the wrong man. I am afraid he will not do well. Wait, by Jove, here he is. It was Lestrade. He had come up the stairs while we were talking and entered the room. He did not look as confident as he usually did. His face was worried and his clothes were a mess. He had come to talk with Sherlock Holmes. When he saw his friend, he looked embarrassed. He stood in the middle of the room, playing with his hat. He did not know what to do. "This is a very strange case," he said at last. "A very confusing situation." "Oh, you think so, Mr. Lestrade?" Gregson asked happily. I thought you would. Did you find the secretary, Mr. Joseph Stangerson? The secretary, Mr. Joseph Stangerson, Lestrade said sadly, was killed at Halliday's private hotel around 6 o'clock this morning. Chapter 7. Light in the Darkness. Lestrade's news was so important that we were all shocked. Gregson jumped out of his chair and spilled his drink. I stared at Sherlock Holmes. His lips were tight and his eyebrows were low over his eyes. Stangerson, too, he said quietly. The story is getting more complex. It was already complex enough, Lestrade said. He took a chair. I feel like I have come into a meeting about a war. Are you sure about this? Gregson asked. I just came from his room, Lestrade said. I was the first person to find him. We have been hearing Gregson's idea of what happened, Holmes said. Would you tell us what you have seen and done? I have no problem with that, Lestrade said. I have to admit that I thought Stangerson was involved in Drebber's death. This new thing proves I was wrong. I started looking for the secretary. The two men were last seen at Euston Station around 8:30 in the evening. Drebber was found at 2 in the morning. I needed to know what Stangerson did between those times. I sent a message to Liverpool with a description of the man. I told them to watch the boats to America. Then I began visiting all the hotels and boarding houses near Euston Station. I thought that if Drebber and his friend got separated, the friend would stay somewhere nearby for the night. They would probably have decided on a meeting place beforehand, Holmes said. That is what happened. I looked all of yesterday evening and found nothing. This morning I started early. At 8 o'clock I went to Halliday's private hotel. When I asked if a Mr. Stangerson was staying there, they said yes. You must be the man he was waiting for, they said. He has been waiting for a man for 2 days. Where is he now? I asked. He is in his room. He asked to be woken up at 9. I will go up and see him right now, I said. I thought my sudden appearance might make him nervous and get him to say something without thinking. The boy from the hotel went with me. The room was on the 2nd floor. The boy pointed out the door and was about to leave. But then I saw something that made me feel sick even after 20 years of this job. A little red line of blood was coming from under the door. It went across the floor and made a small pool near the wall. I yelled, which made the boy come back. He almost fainted when he saw it. The door was locked from the inside. We broke it down. The window of the room was open. Near the window was the body of a man in his pajamas. He was completely dead. He had been dead for some time because his body was cold and stiff. When we turned him over, the boy from the hotel recognized him. It was the same man who had rented the room under the name of Joseph Stangerson. He had been killed by a deep cut in his left side. It must have gone into his heart. And now, for the strangest part of all, what do you think was above the dead man? I felt a chill of fear, even before Sherlock Holmes answered. The word Raish, written in blood, he said. That's it, Lestrade said quietly. We were all silent for a moment. The things the killer did were so strange that the crimes seemed even more terrible. My nerves, which were calm in a war, felt a bit strange just thinking about it. The killer was seen, Lestrade continued. A boy who delivers milk was walking behind the hotel. He saw a ladder that was usually on the ground. It was now leaning against an open window on the 2nd floor. He looked back and saw a man coming down the ladder. The man came down so calmly that the boy thought he was a carpenter working at the hotel. He did not really pay attention to him, but he thought it was early for someone to be working. The boy thinks the man was tall, had a reddish face, and wore a long brown coat. The man must have stayed in the room for a while after the murder. We found bloody water in the sink where he had washed his hands. There were also marks on the sheets where he had cleaned his knife. I looked at Holmes when I heard the description of the killer. It was exactly what he had guessed, but there was no sign of happiness on his face. "Did you find anything in the room that could help find the killer?" he asked. "Nothing. Stangerson had Drebber's wallet in his pocket, but that was normal because he did all the paying. There was a lot of money in it. But nothing was taken. The killer's reason for these crimes is not money. There were no papers in the dead man's pockets, except for one telegram from about a month ago. It was from Cleveland. It said, 'J.H. is in Europe.' There was no name on the telegram." "And there was nothing else?" Holmes asked. "Nothing important. The man's book was on the bed. His pipe was on a chair. There was a glass of water on the table, and on the windowsill there was a small box with 2 pills inside." Sherlock Holmes jumped from his chair. "The final piece," he said happily. "My case is complete." The 2 detectives looked at him in surprise. "Now I have all the answers," my friend said. "There are a few small things to figure out, but I am sure of all the main facts. I know what happened from the time Drebber left Stangerson at the station until Stangerson's body was found. It is as if I saw it with my own eyes. I will show you that I know. Could you get those pills?" "I have them," Lestrade said. He showed a small white box. "I took them, the wallet, and the telegram. I was going to put them in a safe place at the police station. It was just by chance that I took the pills. I did not think they were important." "Give them here," Holmes said. "Now, doctor," he said to me, "are these normal pills?" They were not. They were a grayish color, small, round, and see-through. "They are so light and clear. I think they can dissolve in water," I said. "Exactly," Holmes said. "Now, would you please go downstairs and get that poor dog? The landlady wanted you to put it out of its misery yesterday." I went downstairs and carried the dog up in my arms. It was breathing hard and its eyes looked bad. I knew it was close to dying. I put it on a pillow on the floor. "I will now cut one of these pills in half," Holmes said. He took his knife and did it. "One half goes back in the box. The other half I will put in this glass with a little water. You see that our friend the doctor was right. It dissolves easily." "This may be very interesting," Lestrade said. He sounded angry, like he thought he was being made fun of. "But I do not see what it has to do with the death of Mr. Joseph Stangerson. Be patient, my friend, be patient. You will find that it has everything to do with it. Now I will add some milk to make the mix taste better. We will give it to the dog. He will drink it easily." He put the liquid into a dish and gave it to the dog. The dog quickly drank it all. We were all watching the animal carefully, expecting something to happen. But nothing did. The dog still lay on the pillow, breathing hard. It was not better or worse. Holmes looked at his watch. As the minutes passed with no result, he looked very disappointed. He bit his lip and drummed his fingers on the table. He was very impatient. I felt sorry for him. The 2 detectives smiled, happy to see that he was wrong. "It cannot be a coincidence," he cried. He jumped from his chair and walked around the room. "It is not possible. The very pills I thought were used on Drebber are found after Stangerson's death, but they do nothing. What does this mean? My thinking cannot be wrong. It is not possible. And yet, this dog is fine. Ah, I have it! I have it!" He yelled happily and ran to the box. He cut the other pill in half, dissolved it, added milk, and gave it to the dog. The poor dog drank it. It immediately shook and became stiff. It was as if it had been hit by lightning. It was dead. Sherlock Holmes breathed out and wiped the sweat from his forehead. "I should have more trust," he said. I should know by now that when a fact seems to go against what I think, there is always another way to look at it. One of the pills in that box was poison. The other one was not dangerous. I should have known that even before I saw the box. His last statement was so surprising, I could hardly believe he was serious. But the dead dog was proof that he was right. I felt like I was starting to understand what happened. All this seems strange to you, Holmes continued, because you did not understand the one important clue from the beginning. I was lucky to see it. Everything that has happened since has made me more sure of my first idea. The things that confused you have helped me and made my conclusions stronger. Do not confuse strangeness with a mystery. The most common crime is often the most mysterious. That is because it has no new or special things to learn from. This murder would have been much harder to solve if the body had simply been found in the street without all these strange things. These strange details have actually made the case easier to solve. Mr. Gregson had been listening and was getting impatient. "Listen, Mr. Sherlock Holmes," he said. "We all know you are a smart man and you have your own ways of working. But we need more than just theories now. We need to catch the man. I made my case, and I was wrong. Young Charpentier could not have done this second thing. Lestrade went after his man, Stangerson, and he was wrong too. You have said you know things, but the time has come for us to ask you what you know. Can you name the man who did it?" "I think Gregson is right, sir," Lestrade said. "We both tried, and we both failed. You have said more than once that you have all the information you need. You should not keep it from us any longer." "Any delay in arresting the killer," I said, "might give him time to do another terrible thing." We all pushed Holmes to tell us. He looked unsure. He walked around the room with his head down. "There will be no more murders," he said. He stopped and looked at us. "Do not worry about that. You asked me if I know the killer's name. I do. But knowing his name is not as important as catching him. I think I will catch him very soon. I hope to do it with my own plan. This needs to be done carefully. We are dealing with a smart and dangerous man, and he is helped by another man who is also smart. As long as this man does not think anyone is on his trail, there is a chance to get him. But if he has any idea, he will change his name and disappear in a second. I do not mean to hurt your feelings, but I think these men are too smart for the police. That is why I have not asked for your help. If I fail, it will be my fault. I am ready for that. But I promise that as soon as I can tell you without putting my plan at risk, I will." Gregson and Lestrade did not seem happy with this. Gregson's blonde hair seemed to stand on end. Lestrade's eyes looked angry and curious. They did not have time to speak. A young boy named Wiggins knocked on the door and came in. "Please, sir," he said, "I have the taxi downstairs." "Good boy," Holmes said. "Why do you not show this to the people at Scotland Yard?" he asked. He took a pair of metal handcuffs from a drawer. "See how well the spring works. They close in a second." "The old handcuffs are good enough," Lestrade said, "if we can only find the man to put them on." Very good," Holmes said, smiling. "The taxi driver can help me with my bags. Ask him to come up, Wiggins." I was surprised. Holmes had not told me he was leaving. There was a small suitcase in the room. He pulled it out and started to put a strap on it. He was busy with it when the taxi driver came into the room. "Just help me with this strap, driver," he said. He was on his knees and did not turn his head. The man came forward. He looked angry. He put his hands down to help. At that moment, I heard a click. The handcuffs made a sound. Sherlock Holmes jumped up. "Gentlemen," he cried. His eyes were bright. "I want to introduce you to Mr. Jefferson Hope. He is the killer of Enoch Drebber and Joseph Stangerson." It all happened so fast. I did not have time to understand it. I remember that moment clearly. I remember Holmes's happy face and his voice. I remember the taxi driver's confused and angry face. He looked at the handcuffs on his wrists. For a second, we were all like statues. Then, the prisoner yelled and pulled away from Holmes. He threw himself through the window. The wood and glass broke. But before he got all the way out, Gregson, Lestrade, and Holmes jumped on him. He was pulled back into the room. Then a terrible fight started. He was so strong and angry that he threw the four of us off again and again. He seemed to have the strength of a person having a seizure. His face and hands were badly cut by the glass, but the blood loss did not stop him. It was not until Lestrade got his hand on his neck and started to choke him that we made him stop fighting. Even then, we did not feel safe until we tied his feet. When we were done, we all stood up, out of breath. "We have his taxi," Sherlock Holmes said. "It will take him to Scotland Yard. And now, gentlemen," he said with a smile, "we have finished our little mystery. You can ask me any questions you want. I will not refuse to answer them." Part 2. Chapter 1. On the Great Alkali Plain. In the middle of North America, there is a wide, dry desert. For many years, it stops people from moving west. From the Sierra Nevada to Nebraska, and from the Yellowstone in the north to the Colorado in the south, the land is empty and hard. Some places have high, snowy mountains. Some have dark valleys. Fast rivers cut through sharp canyons. The plains are huge. In winter, they are white with snow. In summer, they are gray with salty dust. Everywhere it is bare, unfriendly, and sad. Almost no one lives there. Sometimes Pawnees or Blackfeet cross it to reach other places, but even the bravest are happy when it is behind them. A thin coyote hides in the bushes. A heavy buzzard beats the air with slow wings. A big grizzly bear walks in the dark ravines and eats what it can find among the rocks. These are the only regular life in the wilderness. From the north side of the Sierra Blanco, the view is the saddest of all. Far, far away, you see only flat land with white spots of alkali and small, low bushes. On the far line of the earth, you see a long row of mountains with rough tops and little bits of snow. There is no sign of life. There is no bird in the hard blue sky. There is no movement on the gray ground. Above all, there is no sound. You may listen and listen, but the great land stays still and quiet. It is complete silence. Yet there is one thing that shows life past there. From the Sierra Blanco, you can see a thin road across the desert. It goes far and then fades in the distance. It has wheel marks and many footsteps. Here and there you see small white things that shine in the sun against the gray dust. If you come close, you see they are bones. The big bones are from oxen. The smaller bones are from men. For 1,500 miles, you can follow this scary road by these bones, the bones of people who fell and died on the way. On May 4th, 1847, a single traveler stood and looked at this scene. He looked like the spirit of the desert itself. It was hard to tell his age. He might be 40, or he might be 60. His face was thin and tired. His brown, dry skin was tight on the bones. His long brown hair and beard had many white streaks. His eyes were deep in his head and shone with a strange fire. The hand that held his rifle was as thin as a hand of bone. He leaned on the gun to stand, but his tall body and big bones showed he was once strong. His hollow cheeks and his loose clothes told why he looked so old and weak. The man was dying of hunger and thirst. He had come down a ravine and climbed to a small rise, hoping to see water. Now the big salt plain lay in front of him. Far away he saw wild mountains. There was no tree or plant to show water. There was no hope in any direction. He looked north, east, and west with wild eyes. He knew his walk was over. He would die on that bare rock. Why not here, he said to himself, as well as in a soft bed 20 years later? He sat down in the shade of a big stone. Before he sat, he laid his empty rifle on the ground. He also put down a large bundle tied in a gray shawl. He had carried it on his right shoulder. It was a little too heavy for him now, so it fell hard. At once a small cry came from the gray bundle. A little face with bright brown eyes and 2 dimpled fists pushed out. "You hurt me," said a small, serious voice. "Did I now?" the man said, sorry at once. "I didn't mean to." He opened the shawl and lifted out a pretty little girl about 5 years old. She had neat shoes and a smart pink dress with a clean white apron, as if a mother had cared for her. The child was pale, but her arms and legs still looked healthy. She had suffered less than the man. "How is it now?" he asked, worried. She was rubbing the back of her head where her messy gold curls lay. "Kiss it and make it well," she said very seriously, lifting the sore place. "Mother did that." "Where is Mother?" "Mother is gone. I think you will see her soon." "Gone?" said the child. "That is funny. She did not say goodbye. She almost always did, even if she just went to Auntie's for tea. Now she has been gone 3 days. Say, it's very dry, isn't it? Isn't there water? Isn't there food?" "No, dear, there isn't," he said softly. "You must be patient a little while, and then you will be all right. Put your head here against me. It helps. My lips are like leather, but I should tell you how things are. What's that in your hand?" "Pretty things, fine things," the girl cried, holding up 2 shiny pieces of mica. "When we go home, I'll give them to Brother Bob." "You'll see prettier things soon," the man said, trying to sound sure. "Do you remember when we left the big river?" "Oh, yes. We thought we would find another river soon, but something was wrong. Maybe the compass, maybe the map. The river did not come. The water ran out. We kept a little for you and you could not wash," the girl said, looking at his dirty face. "No, and I could not drink. Mr. Bender was the first to die. Then Indian Pete, then Mrs. McGregor, then Johnny Jones, and then, dear, your mother." "Then Mother is dead too," the child said. She put her face in her apron and cried. "Yes, all are gone except you and me. Then I hoped for water this way. I lifted you on my shoulder and we walked together, but it did not help. Now there is very little chance for us." "Do you mean we will die too?" she asked, stopping her tears and looking up with wet eyes. "I think so," he said. "Why didn't you say so before?" she said, and she laughed with sudden joy. "You gave me a fright. Now I am glad. If we die, we will see Mother again?" "Yes, dear." "And you too," she said. "I'll tell her how good you were. She will meet us at heaven's door with a big pitcher of water and hot buckwheat cakes, brown on both sides, the way Bob and I liked. How long will it be?" "I don't know. Not long." He was looking north. In the clear blue sky, 3 small dots appeared. They grew larger very fast. Soon 3 big brown birds circled over their heads and sat on rocks above them. They were buzzards, the vultures of the West. When they come, death is near. "Cocks and hens!" the little girl cried, clapping to make them fly. "Tell me, did God make this country?" "Of course he did," the man said, surprised. "He made the country in Illinois, and he made the Missouri," the girl said. "I think someone else made this place. It is not so well done. They forgot water and trees. What do you think about saying a prayer?" the man asked, shy but gentle. It is not night, she said. It doesn't matter. It's not regular, but he won't mind. Say the prayers you said each night in the wagon on the plains. Why don't you say some? She asked. I don't remember them, he said. I haven't said prayers since I was half as high as that gun. But it is never too late. You say them, and I'll say Amen with you. Then kneel down. Me too, she said, spreading the shawl. Put your hands together like this. It makes you feel good. It was a strange sight. No one saw it but the buzzards. Side by side on the small shawl, the little child and the rough, tired man knelt and prayed. Her small, bright face and his sharp, thin face both turned up to the blue sky. Her voice was light and clear. His voice was deep and harsh. Together they asked for mercy and for pardon. When the prayer ended, they sat again in the shade. The child fell asleep on the man's chest. He watched her for a time, but nature was stronger than his will. For 3 days and nights he had not slept. His eyes closed, his head fell forward, his gray beard touched the gold hair of the child. Both slept a deep, dreamless sleep. If the man had stayed awake for 30 minutes more, he would have seen a strange thing. Far away at the edge of the plain, a thin dust rose. At first it was small and looked like a mist. It grew higher and wider, and soon it was a thick cloud. Only many moving things could make such dust. In a green land, a person might think a great herd of bison was coming, but no bison could live in this dry place. As the dust came nearer to the lonely hill, you could see white wagon covers and men on horses through the haze. It was a great caravan going west. What a caravan! The head of it reached the mountains, but the end was still under the far sky. Across the whole plain went the long line, wagons and carts, riders and walkers, many women with heavy loads, and small children beside the wheels, or peeping from under white covers. This was not a small group of settlers. It was a people moving to find a new home. At the front rode more than 20 serious men with iron faces. They wore simple dark clothes and carried rifles. They stopped at the foot of the hill and spoke together. "The wells are to the right, brothers," said a man with hard lips and gray hair. "To the right of the Sierra Blanco. Then we reach the Rio Grande," said another. "Do not fear for water," cried a third. "He who brought water from the rock will not leave his people." "Amen, amen," they all said. They were ready to go when a young man with sharp eyes pointed up. On the top of the rocks, a little strip of pink cloth moved against the gray stones. At once the leaders pulled their horses back and took their guns. More riders came up fast. Many whispered, "Indians!" "There cannot be many," said the older leader. "We passed the Pawnees. There are no other tribes before the big mountains." "Shall I go and see, Brother Stangerson?" asked one. "And I?" called others. "Leave your horses. We will wait here," the elder said. The young men tied their horses and climbed quickly and quietly. From below, their friends watched them jump from rock to rock until they stood on the skyline. The first man threw up his hands in surprise. The others reached him and did the same. On the small flat top of the hill was one great stone. Against it lay a tall man, long-bearded and very thin. His calm face and slow, even breath showed he slept. Beside him lay a small child. Her round white arms were around his thin neck. Her golden head was on his brown jacket. Her lips were a little open. Her teeth were like a line of white. A soft smile was on her face. Her fat white legs in white socks and shiny shoes looked strange beside the long, dry legs of the man. On a ledge above them, 3 buzzards stood. When they saw the men, they cried in anger and flew away. The harsh bird cries woke the sleepers. The man jumped up and looked down. When he fell asleep, the plain was empty. Now a great crowd of people and animals moved across it. He could not believe his eyes. He rubbed them with his thin hand. "I guess this is fever," he said. The child held his coat and looked around with wide, quiet eyes. The young men called to them and helped them down. One man lifted the little girl onto his shoulder. 2 others held the thin man and walked beside him to the wagons. "My name is John Ferrier," the man said. "Only me and the child are left. 21 started. All the rest died of thirst and hunger to the south." "Is she your child?" someone asked. "She is now," he said, his voice strong. "She is mine because I saved her. No man will take her. From this day she is Lucy Ferrier. Who are you?" He looked at the strong, sun-browned men. "There's a powerful lot of you." "Near 10,000, said a young man. "We are God's persecuted children, the chosen of the angel Moroni." "I never heard of him," the wanderer said. He chose a big crowd. "Do not joke about the holy," said another, stern. "We believe the sacred writings given on gold plates with Egyptian letters to Joseph Smith at Palmyra. We left Nauvoo in Illinois, where we built our temple. We seek a safe place, even in the heart of the desert." "Nauvoo," John said. The name was known to him. "I see. You are the Mormons." "We are the Mormons," they all answered. "Where are you going?" "We do not know. God leads us by our prophet. You must stand before him. He will say what to do with you." They reached the foot of the hill. Women with pale faces, strong laughing children, and men with serious eyes crowded around. They cried out in pity when they saw the small girl and the poor man. But the guards did not stop. They went on to a large, bright wagon with 6 horses. A man sat beside the driver. He was not more than 30, but his big head and firm face showed he was a leader. He closed a brown book when he heard the story. He looked at the 2 strangers. "If we take you," he said in a slow, solemn voice, "it must be as believers with us. We will not have wolves in our fold. Better your bones lie white in this desert than you be a small rot that spoils the whole fruit. Will you come on these terms?" "I'll come on any terms," Ferrier said with force. Some elders smiled. The leader stayed stern. "Take him, Brother Stangerson," he said. "Give him food and drink, and the child too. Teach him our holy faith. We have waited enough. Forward, on to Zion." On to Zion!" cried the people, mouth to mouth down the line, until the sound was soft in the far distance. Whips cracked, wheels creaked, the great wagons moved. The elder led John and Lucy to his wagon, where food was ready. "You will stay here," he said. "In a few days you will be strong again. Remember, from now and forever you are of our faith. Brigham Young has spoken, and he speaks with the voice of Joseph Smith, which is the voice of God." Chapter 2. The Flower of Utah. This story will not tell every hard thing the Mormon people suffered before they found their last home. They had walked and ridden for a very long time. They came from the river called the Mississippi and went to the west side of the Rocky Mountains. On the way they met wild men and wild animals. They felt hunger and thirst. They were tired and sick. Nature put many blocks in their road, but they kept going with strong hearts. Even the bravest felt shaken by the long fear and pain. When at last they saw the wide valley of Utah in the bright sun, every person went down on their knees. They prayed with full hearts. Their leader told them, "This is the promised land. These new fields will be yours forever." They believed his words and felt a deep peace. Their leader, Brigham Young, was not only brave, he was also a very good planner. Soon there were maps and charts for a new city. The streets and squares were drawn. Fields around the city were shared out so that each person got land by his rank and work. A shopman worked at his shop. A maker of things worked at his tools. The town seemed to grow like magic. In the country, men dug drains, made fences, planted new trees, and cut down old ones. Next summer, the land was gold with wheat. The strange new settlement did well in everything. The greatest work of all was a great temple in the middle of the city. From the first light of the morning to the last light of the evening, hammers hit and saws rasped. The sound never stopped. The people wanted to build a house for the God who had brought them safe through many dangers. Two people who had once been lost in the desert came to the end of this long road with the Mormons. They were John Ferrier and the little girl who had shared his bad days. He had taken her as his own child. Her name was Lucy Ferrier. She rode in Elder Stangerson's wagon. In the wagon there were also the elder's 3 wives and his son, a bold boy of 12. Little Lucy was sad after her mother died, but a child's heart comes back. The women loved her and made her a pet. She learned to like the wagon life with its white canvas roof that moved like a little house. John Ferrier, after food and rest, got strong again. He showed he was a fine guide and a tireless hunter. People liked and trusted him very fast. When the long journey ended, all the people agreed to give him a big, rich piece of land. Only Young and the 4 top elders, Stangerson, Kemble, Johnston, and Drebber, had as much or more. On his land, John built a strong log house. Year by year, he added rooms. In time, it became a wide, pleasant home. He was a practical man. He bargained well. He was good with his hands. His iron body let him work morning and night on his fields. Because of this hard work, his farm grew and grew. After 3 years, he was better off than his neighbors. After 6, he was well-to-do. After 9, he was rich. After 12 years, only a very few men in all Salt Lake City could stand beside him in wealth. From the big lake inside the land to the far Wasatch Mountains, many people knew the name of John Ferrier. There was only one thing that many people around him did not like. He would not take many wives like the other men. He never gave a reason. He only kept to his choice with a firm and quiet no. Some people said he was not warm in the new faith. Some said he was greedy and did not want the cost of a big home. Others said he had loved a fair girl back by the Atlantic, and she had died of sadness. No one truly knew. But John kept single. In all other ways, he obeyed the rules of the young city. People called him a good, straight, and faithful man. Lucy grew up in the log house. She helped her father in many things. The sharp mountain air and the sweet smell of pine trees were like nurse and mother to her. Each year she grew taller and stronger. Her cheek became red and healthy. Her step was light. Many people on the high road by the farm felt old. Sweet thoughts wakened them when they saw her. They watched her slim body move across the wheat, or they met her on her father's Mustang and saw how well she rode, like a true child of the West. The bud became a flower. In the same year that her father became the richest farmer, she became a very fair American girl, one of the best on the whole Pacific side. It was not her father who first knew that the child had become a woman. It is almost never the father. The change is slow and secret. No one can mark the day on a calendar. Least of all does the girl herself know it. She does not know until a voice or a hand touches her and makes her heart beat fast. Then she feels both proud and afraid. She learns that a new, bigger life has begun inside her. Most people can remember the one small thing that showed this new day. For Lucy Ferrier, the small thing was not small. It was a real danger, and it changed her path and the path of others. It was a warm June morning. The people of the Latter-day Saints worked like the bees on their hives, which they used as their sign. In the fields and in the streets there was the same soft hum of work. On the long, dusty road, a line of mules went west. They carried heavy loads. There was gold in California, and people rushed there. The overland road passed through the city of the elect. Droves of sheep and big cattle came in from far fields. New trains of tired travelers arrived. Men and horses were both worn out by their long road. Through all these mixed crowds, a young rider moved like a fish in a stream. It was Lucy Ferrier. Her fair face was pink from the ride. Her long chestnut hair flew free behind her. Her father had sent her with a job to the city. She rode fast and brave, as she had done many times. She thought only of her task and how to do it well. Dusty men of adventure turned and stared. Even the Indians, who often showed no feeling, looked and softly smiled at the beauty of the pale girl. When she reached the edge of the city, the road was blocked by a big herd of cattle. The herdsmen were wild men from the plains. Lucy was quick and not patient. She tried to pass by, pushing her Mustang into what looked like a gap, but the animals closed around her. In a moment, she sat inside a moving sea of big, long-horned bullocks with angry eyes. She knew cattle and did not fear at first. She looked for every chance to move forward. She wanted to break out of the herd. Then the sharp horn of one beast hit the Mustang's side, maybe by mistake, maybe not. The little horse went mad. It stood up on two legs with a loud snort. It jumped and tossed. Only a very good rider could stay in the saddle. Every leap pushed the horse against horns again. The pain made it wilder. Lucy held the bridle tight, but her head began to swim. The dust rose and choked her. The hot breath of the cattle steamed around her. She was ready to lose hope. Then a kind voice at her side spoke low and sure. It told her help was here. A strong brown hand caught the curb of the Mustang. The hand pulled the horse. The man made a path through the herd. In a short time, Lucy was safe at the edge. "You are not hurt, I hope, miss," her helper said with respect. She looked up at his dark, strong face and gave a quick, brave laugh. "I am very frightened," she said in a simple way. "Who would think Pancho would fear a lot of cows?" "Thank God you stayed on," the man said. He was tall and looked wild in a manly way. He sat on a strong roan horse. He wore a hunter's rough clothes. A long rifle hung on his back. "I think you are John Ferrier's daughter," he said. "I saw you ride down from his place. When you see him, ask if he remembers the Jefferson Hopes from St. Louis. If he is the same Ferrier, my father and he were close." "Why don't you come and ask him yourself?" she said with a soft smile. The young man's eyes lit up. "I will come," he said. "We have been in the mountains for 2 months. We do not look fine for a visit. He must take us as we are." "He will thank you, and so will I," she said. "He loves me very much. If those cows had run over me, he would never get over it." "Nor would I," the young man said, very quiet. "You?" she said, teasing him. "Why would that matter to you? You are not even our friend." His face fell dark at her words, so Lucy laughed out loud. "I did not mean that," she said. "You are a friend now. You must come and see us. But I must go on, or Father will stop trusting me with his business. Goodbye." "Goodbye," he said. He lifted his wide hat and bent over her small hand. She turned her Mustang, gave it a little cut with the whip, and flew away like a brown bird in a cloud of dust. Young Jefferson Hope rode on with his men. He was quiet and stern. He and his friends had been looking for silver in the Nevada mountains. Now they went back to Salt Lake City to find money to work the silver lines they had found. He had been as keen as any of them, but the one meeting with the brave, fair girl changed everything in his heart. She was open and fresh, like the wind from the Sierra. His strong, wild heart burned deep inside him. When she was gone, he knew a turning had come. No more could silver or any other plan be as great as this new love. It was not the light love of a boy. It was the strong fire of a man with a firm will and a proud spirit. He had been used to win in what he tried. He swore he would not fail in this, if work and patience could win. That night he went to see John Ferrier. He went again and again. Soon his face was well known at the farm. For 12 years John had lived in the valley and worked. He did not hear much news from the wide world. Jefferson could tell him many things. He spoke in a way that Lucy liked to hear as much as her father did. He had been one of the first men in California. He told of quick riches and quick losses in those wild, bright times. He had been a scout, a trapper, a silver finder, and a ranchman. Where there was adventure, he had gone to find it. The old farmer soon liked him very much. He spoke well of his good points. When he praised him, Lucy was quiet, but her red cheeks and bright, happy eyes told the truth. Her young heart was no longer hers. Her honest father may not have seen it, but the man who won her heart did see it very well. One soft summer evening he came fast down the road and stopped at the gate. Lucy stood in the doorway and came to meet him. He threw his bridle over the fence and walked up the path in strong steps. "I must go, Lucy," he said. He took both her hands. He looked down into her face with love. "I will not ask you to come now, but will you be ready to come when I return?" "When will that be?" she asked. She blushed and smiled. "In 2 months at most," he said. "I will come then and claim you, my dear one. No one can stand between us." "What about father?" she asked. "He agrees," he said. "He has said yes if we can get the mines to work well. I am not afraid of that." "Oh, then if you and father have made the plan, there is nothing more to say," she whispered. She laid her cheek on his broad chest. "Thank God," he said in a rough, low voice. He bent and kissed her. "It is settled. The longer I stay, the harder it is to go. My friends wait for me at the canyon. Goodbye, my own dear one. Goodbye. In 2 months you will see me." He pulled himself away. He jumped to his horse. He rode off at great speed. He did not look back, as if he feared he would lose his will if he saw her again. Lucy stood by the gate and watched until he was gone. Then she went into the house. She was the happiest girl in all of Utah. Chapter 3. John Ferrier Talks with the Prophet. 3 weeks had passed since Jefferson Hope and his friends left Salt Lake City. John Ferrier felt sad when he thought of the young man's return, because he would soon lose his adopted daughter. But Lucy's bright and happy face made him accept it. Her smile was stronger than any long talk. Deep in his firm heart, John had made one clear rule. He would never let his daughter marry a Mormon. He did not call such a match a true marriage. He called it a shame. He could think what he liked about their church ideas, but on this one point, he would never change. He kept silent, however. In those days, in the land of the saints, it was dangerous to speak different beliefs in public. It was very dangerous. Even the best people spoke only in whispers about faith. They were afraid their words might be twisted. A wrong word could bring quick punishment. Those who had suffered before had now become the ones who made others suffer. They punished harder than any judge in far-off lands. Old dark courts in other countries had strong power, but here the hidden power in Utah felt worse to many who lived there. What made it so terrible was that no one could see it, no one could hear it, yet it seemed to know everything and to reach everywhere. If a man stood against the church, he disappeared. No one knew where he had gone or what had happened. His wife and children waited at home for his step and his voice. No father came back to tell how he had faced the secret judges. A rash word, a quick act, and a person was gone. People did not even know the true shape of the power that hung over them. So men walked softly, they trembled. Even in a wide, wild land, they did not dare to whisper the doubts that lay heavy in their hearts. At first, this shadow fell only on those who wished to leave the new faith after they had joined it. Soon, the shadow spread wider. There were not enough adult women. Polygamy without enough women was an empty rule. Then strange stories began to pass from mouth to mouth. Some spoke of travelers who were found dead. Some said camps were robbed in places where no Indians ever lived. New women came into the rich houses of the elders. These women cried and grew pale. Their faces showed a deep fear that never went away. Late walkers on the mountain roads told of bands of armed men. The men wore masks. They moved quietly and without sound in the dark. These stories did not vanish. They grew. They were told again and again by many lips, until they formed one clear name. Even today, people in lonely ranches of the West call that name with fear. They call it the Danite Band or the Avenging Angels. As people learned more, they feared more. No one knew who belonged to this group. The names of those who did hurt in the name of faith were kept deep in secret. The friend to whom you spoke about your doubts might be a man who would come at night with fire and sword and ask you to pay for your words. So each man feared his neighbor. No one spoke about the thoughts nearest the heart. One clear morning, John Ferrier was going out to his wheat fields. He heard the latch click. He looked through the window. A strong, sandy-haired, middle-aged man was walking up the path. John's heart jumped. This was Brigham Young himself, the great leader. John grew afraid, for he knew such a visit was not a good sign. He hurried to the door to greet him. The leader gave him a cold greeting. With a hard face, he walked into the sitting room. "Brother Ferrier," said Brigham Young. He sat down and looked at John from under his light eyelashes. "The true believers have been kind to you. We found you in the desert when you were starving. We shared our food. We led you to the chosen valley. We gave you good land. Under our care you grew rich. Is this true?" "It is true," said John Ferrier. "In return, we asked only one thing," the leader went on. "We asked you to accept the true faith and live by all its rules. You promised this, but people say you have not done it." "How have I failed?" John asked. He lifted his hands in protest. "Have I not given to the common fund? Have I not gone to the temple? Have I not—" "Where are your wives?" asked Young. He looked around the room. "Call them in so that I may greet them." "It is true I have not married," John answered. "There were few women, and many men had a better right than I did. I was not alone. I had my daughter. She cared for me." "It is about your daughter that I speak," said the leader. "She has grown to be the flower of Utah. Many great men now look kindly on her." John felt pain inside, though he did not show it. "There are stories," the leader said. "I do not wish to believe them. They say she is promised to a Gentile. This must be false gossip. You know the rule in our holy code. Every girl of the true faith must marry one of the chosen. If she weds a Gentile, she commits a great sin. You say you follow the holy way, then you cannot let your daughter break it." John did not answer. He turned his old riding whip round and round in his hands. "On this one point your faith will be tested," the leader said. "The Sacred Council of Four has decided it. The girl is young. We do not want her to marry an old man. We do not wish to take away all choice. We elders already have many wives, but our sons must also have wives. Elder Stangerson has a son. Elder Drebber has a son. Either one would be glad to welcome your daughter to his house. Let her choose between them. They are young. They are rich. They are of the true faith. What do you say?" John sat silent for a while. He frowned and thought. "Please give us time," he said at last. "My daughter is very young. She is hardly of age to marry." "She shall have 1 month to choose," said Young. He rose from his chair. "At the end of that time she will give her answer." He walked toward the door. Then he stopped. His face turned red. His eyes flashed. "It would be better for you," he cried in a loud voice, "better for you and for her to be white bones on the Sierra Blanco than to set your weak wills against the orders of the Holy Four." He lifted his hand in warning and went out. John heard his heavy step on the stones of the path. John stayed where he was. He put his elbows on his knees and tried to think how to tell Lucy. A soft hand touched his. He looked up. Lucy stood beside him. Her face was pale and afraid. He knew she had heard every word. "I could not help it," she said. His voice was loud. It filled the house. "Oh, Father, what will we do?" "Don't be scared," he said. He drew her close. His big, rough hand stroked her chestnut hair. "We will find a way. Tell me one thing. Do you still care for your young man? Your heart has not grown cold, has it?" She did not speak. She only sobbed and squeezed his hand. "No, of course not," he said softly. "I would not want to hear you say you had stopped. He is a good lad. He is a Christian too, which is more than I can say of these people here, with all their praying and their long talks. A party leaves for Nevada tomorrow. I will find a way to send him a message. I will tell him the trouble we are in. If I know that young man, he will come back fast. He will be quicker than a telegram." Lucy gave a small laugh through her tears. Her father's way of speaking made her smile in spite of fear. "When he comes, he will give us wise advice," she said. "But, Father, I am afraid for you. I hear such awful stories. People who stand against the prophet always meet something terrible." "But we have not stood against him yet," her father said. "We will watch for storms when we truly face him. We have 1 clear month. When it ends, I think we had better leave Utah." "Leave Utah?" she cried. "That is what I mean," he said. "What about the farm?" she asked. "We will get as much money as we can," he said. "The rest we will leave. To tell the truth, Lucy, I have thought of this before. I do not like to bow to any man, as these people bow to their prophet. I am a free-born American. All this is new to me, and I am too old to learn it now. If he comes to push us on this land, he may meet a load of buckshot coming the other way. But they will not let us leave," she said. "We will see when Jefferson comes," he answered. "We will find a way. Do not worry yourself, my dear. Do not cry and swell your eyes, or he will be angry with me when he sees you. There is nothing to fear. There is no danger at all." He spoke with a strong, sure voice to comfort her. But Lucy saw something else. That night he checked each door with great care. He cleaned his old shotgun, he loaded it, he hung it again on the wall of his bedroom. He tried to walk tall and brave, but she saw the truth. He was ready to protect her, even with his life. In the days that followed, the shadow in the town seemed to grow. People smiled in the daylight. At night, they shut their doors and spoke low. Men looked over their shoulders when they walked. A cart at a corner might hide watchers. A bird call in the dark might be a signal. When a stranger came along the road, folks stepped aside and said nothing. Rumors moved like smoke. You could not hold them, but you could smell them. Some told of riders who were masked and silent. Some told of wagons that were lost and never found. Mothers pulled their children close when they heard. Fathers kept their tools sharp and their guns clean. John sent his message to Nevada by a man he trusted. The man knew the trails. He would tell Jefferson everything. While they waited, father and daughter spoke softly at night. They made little plans. They chose the clothes they would take. They counted their money. They practiced moving quietly. They thought about the best road to the mountains. Lucy tried to be brave. She cooked, cleaned, and sang a little as she worked, so the house would not feel sad. In the fields the wheat bent and shone in the sun as before. The sky was blue, the air was clear, yet both of them felt the same heavy thing. It was like a stone on the heart. John said again and again that there was no danger. His eyes, however, told another tale when he looked out across the yard at dusk. One evening the wind was low and warm. The light fell soft on the farm. A bird called in the hedge. Lucy stood by the window and watched the path. She hoped for a quick step, a known shape, a dear voice. John sat by the table and checked a small bag. He put in a few clothes for her. He added a coil of string, a good knife, and a little food. He tied the bag and set it by the door. "Remember," he said kindly, "we keep quiet until we must move. We waste no time when the word comes. We leave by night. We take the back fields, not the road. We do not look back." Lucy nodded. She held his hand. "I will do as you say," she whispered. "I am not afraid when I am with you." He smiled and patted her shoulder. "And I am stronger when I am with you," he said. The sun went down. The house grew still. The town beyond the fields sank into the quiet of the evening. Somewhere far away a dog barked. A horse stamped in a shed. Father and daughter sat close together. They waited. They did not speak. They listened to the soft sounds of the night and to their own careful breathing. John's mind went back to the first days in the valley. He remembered the rescue in the desert. He remembered the food and the help. He remembered the promise he had made when he was starving. He had not thought then of certain rules. He had not thought of many wives. He had not thought of the hard faces of men who ordered others. He had thought only of water, bread, and a safe road. Now everything was different. He still thanked those who had saved his life. But he could not give up his right to choose the path for his daughter and for himself. So he made his choice in his heart. If the time came, they would go. They would leave the farm, the fields, and the little house. They would pass the mountain walls and the deep canyons. They would ride west to a place where no secret hand could reach them. He knew it would be dangerous. He also knew it was the only way to keep Lucy safe and free. Night fully fell. John rose and checked the doors again. He set a chair under the handle of the back door. He lifted the old shotgun from the wall. He opened it, checked the charge, and closed it with a firm click. He laid it within easy reach. Lucy watched him. She did not speak. She knew what these small acts meant. He would not wait for others to set his fate. He would guard his child. He would stand and fight if he must. And if help came from the mountains, he would be ready to move in a moment. Thus they waited, calm on the outside, but wakeful at heart, holding on to hope and counting the quiet beats until Jefferson Hope could come back to them. Chapter 4. A Flight for Life. The morning after he met the Mormon prophet, John Ferrier rode into Salt Lake City. He found a friend who was going to the Nevada mountains. John gave him a message for Jefferson Hope. In the message, he told Jefferson that great danger was near and that he must come back at once. After sending the message, John felt calmer. He went home with a lighter heart. When he reached his farm, he saw a horse tied to each gate post. He went inside and was surprised again. 2 young men sat in his sitting room. One had a long, pale face. He rocked in a chair with his feet on the stove. The other had a thick neck and rough, swollen features. He stood at the window with his hands in his pockets, whistling a popular hymn. Both nodded to John when he came in. The man in the rocking chair began to speak. "Maybe you don't know us," he said. "This is the son of Elder Drebber, and I am Joseph Stangerson. We traveled with you in the desert when the Lord reached out his hand and brought you to the true fold. As he will bring all nations in his good time," the other said in a nasal voice. "He works slowly but very surely." John guessed who they were. He bowed, but he was cold and stern. "We have come," Stangerson went on, "because our fathers advised it. We ask for your daughter's hand. She may choose one of us. I have only 4 wives, and Brother Drebber has 7, so my claim is stronger." "No, Brother Stangerson," Drebber cried. "The question is not how many wives we have, but how many we can keep. My father has given his mills to me. I am richer." "My future is better," Stangerson answered hotly. "When the Lord takes my father, I will have his yard and his leather factory. I am also older than you and higher in the church." "The maiden will decide," young Drebber said, smiling at himself in the glass. "We will leave the choice to her." John stood in the doorway, angry and silent. He could hardly keep from striking them with his riding whip. "Listen," he said at last, walking up to them. "When my daughter calls you, you may come. Until then, I do not want to see your faces again." The 2 young Mormons stared at him. To them, this choice was a great honor for the girl and for her father. "There are 2 ways out," John cried. "There is the door and there is the window. Which will you use?" His dark face looked fierce. His thin hands were strong and ready. The 2 men jumped up and hurried out. John followed them to the door. "Tell me when you decide which one it is to be," he said with a hard laugh. "You will pay for this," Stangerson shouted, white with rage. "You have defied the prophet and the council of 4. You will regret it all your life." "The hand of the Lord will be heavy on you," Drebber cried. "He will rise and strike you." "Then I will begin the striking," John shouted. He would have run upstairs for his gun, but Lucy caught his arm and held him. While she held him, they heard horses gallop away. The men were gone. "The young lying rascals," John said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I would rather see you in your grave, my girl, than married to either one." "And so would I, father," Lucy said bravely. "But Jefferson will soon be here." "Yes," he said. "He will come soon, the sooner the better. We do not know what those men will do next." It was time for a strong friend to help the old farmer and his adopted daughter. Never in the history of the settlement had anyone disobeyed the elders so openly. Small mistakes were punished hard. What would they do to the worst rebel? John knew his money and name would not save him. Other rich, well-known men had disappeared before, and the church took their goods. He was a brave man, but the dark, secret dangers made him shake. He could face an open enemy. He could not fight a shadow. He hid his fear from his daughter and pretended the matter was small. But she loved him and saw he was not at ease. He expected a warning from Young, and it came in a strange way. The next morning, when he woke, he found a small square of paper pinned to his blanket, right over his chest. On it, in big, rough letters, were the words, 29 days are given you for amendment, and then... The long dash was more terrible than any clear threat. John wondered how the paper came there. His servants slept outside, and all doors and windows were locked. He crushed the paper in his hand and said nothing to Lucy. He knew the 29 days were the rest of the month the prophet had promised. How could he fight an enemy with such secret power? The hand that fixed the pin could also have struck his heart, and he would never know who did it. The next morning was worse. At breakfast, Lucy looked up and cried out. In the center of the ceiling, someone had written the number 28, as if with a burned stick. Lucy did not understand. John did not explain. That night he sat up with his gun and kept watch. He saw nothing and heard nothing. Yet in the morning, the number 27 was painted on the outside of his door. Day after day, the same thing happened. Each new morning, a number showed how many days were left. The number appeared on a wall, on the floor, or on a small card stuck to the gate or the fence. John searched and watched, but he could not find who did it. The sight of the numbers filled him with a deep fear. He grew thin and restless. His eyes looked like the eyes of a hunted animal. He had only one hope left, the return of the young hunter from Nevada. 20 became 15, and 15 became 10, but no message came. The numbers fell one by one, and still there was no sign of Jefferson. Whenever a rider came down the road, or a driver shouted to his team, the old man ran to the gate, hoping help had arrived. At last the number fell from 5 to 4, and then to 3. He lost heart. He gave up hope of escape. Alone, with little knowledge of the mountains around the settlement, he knew he was weak. The main roads were watched and guarded. No one could pass without a paper from the council. Wherever he turned, the same blow seemed to wait. Yet he never changed his decision. He would die rather than agree to what he called his daughter's shame. One evening he sat alone. He thought long and hard. He looked for a way out, but found none. That morning the number 2 was on his wall. The next day would be the last. What would happen then? Many dark thoughts came to him. What would happen to Lucy after he was gone? Was there no way out of this hidden net? He dropped his head on the table and cried because he felt so helpless. Then he heard a soft sound. It was clear in the quiet night. It came from the front door. He went to the hall and listened. There was a pause, then the same soft sound again. Someone was tapping very gently on a panel of the door. Was it a killer from the secret court? Or someone to mark the last day? John felt that quick death would be better than this fear. He pulled the bolt and opened the door. Outside all was still. The stars shone bright. The small front garden lay quiet behind its fence and gate. No one stood on the road. John breathed out and looked left and right. Then he looked down. At his feet a man lay flat on the ground, arms and legs spread out. John was so shocked that he leaned against the wall and held his throat to stop a cry. He first thought the man was hurt or dying. But then he saw the figure slide forward like a snake. It moved into the hall, quick and silent. Inside, the man jumped up, shut the door, and showed his face. It was Jefferson Hope. "Good God!" John gasped. "You scared me. Why did you come like that?" "Give me food," Jefferson said in a rough voice. "I have had nothing to eat or drink for 48 hours. He fell on the cold meat and bread from John's supper and ate fast. "Is Lucy brave?" he asked when he was done. "Yes," her father said. "She does not know the danger." "That is good," Jefferson said. "The house is watched on every side. That is why I crawled. They are sharp, but not sharp enough to catch a Washoe hunter." John felt new strength. He shook the young man's hard hand. "You are a man to be proud of," he said. "Not many would come into this hornet's nest to share our danger and our trouble." "You are right," Jefferson said. I respect you, but if you were alone, I might think twice. It is Lucy who brings me here. Before harm comes to her, there will be one less hope in Utah." "What shall we do?" John asked. "Tomorrow is your last day," Jefferson said. "If you do not act tonight, you are lost. I have a mule and 2 horses in the Eagle Ravine. How much money do you have?" $2,000 in gold and 5,000 in notes, John said. "That is enough," Jefferson said. "I have about the same. We must ride through the mountains to Carson City. Wake Lucy. It is good that the servants sleep outside." While John told Lucy and helped her dress, Jefferson packed all the food he could find. He filled a stone jar with water. He knew mountain wells were few and far apart. He had just finished when John came back with Lucy, ready to go. The lovers greeted each other warmly but quickly. Time was short. "We must go now," Jefferson said in a low, firm voice. "The front and back doors are watched. We will go out the side window and cross the fields. The horses are 2 miles away in the ravine. By daybreak, we should be halfway through the mountains." "What if they stop us?" John asked. Jefferson touched the butt of the revolver at his belt. "If there are too many, we will still take 2 or 3 with us," he said with a hard smile. They put out all the lights. John looked from the dark window over his fields. He would leave them forever. He had made up his mind. His daughter's honor and happiness were worth more than his land. The night looked peaceful. Trees rustled. The grain lay wide and still. It was hard to believe that murder walked there. But the white face and fixed eyes of the young hunter showed what he had seen on his way in. John carried the bag of gold and notes. Jefferson carried the food and water. Lucy carried a small bundle with her few dear things. They opened the window slowly, waited for a dark cloud to cover the stars, and climbed into the little garden. They moved with bent backs and held breath. They reached the hedge and followed it to a gap that opened into the cornfields. Just there, Jefferson pulled them down into the shadow. They lay still and shook. His prairie ears had saved them. They had just crouched down when the sad hoot of a mountain owl sounded close by. A second hoot answered from a little distance. A shadowy figure stepped out of the gap. He gave the same signal again. Another man came from the dark. "Tomorrow at midnight," said the first man, who seemed to be the leader, "when the whip-poor-will calls 3 times. "It is well," the second man said. "Shall I tell Brother Drebber?" "Pass it to him, and from him to the others. 9 to 7. 7 to 5, the other replied. The 2 men moved away in different directions. The last words were a password and answer. As soon as the steps were gone, Jefferson jumped up. He helped the others through the gap. They ran across the fields as fast as they could. He held Lucy when she was weak and half carried her. "Hurry, hurry," he said again and again. "We are past the line of guards. Speed is everything." They reached the high road and moved fast. They met only one person, and they hid in a field until he passed. Before the town, Jefferson turned onto a rough, narrow path to the mountains. 2 dark, jagged peaks rose over them. Between them lay the Eagle Canyon where the horses waited. Jefferson led them among great rocks and along a dry stream bed. At last they reached a quiet corner behind stones. There the animals were tied. Lucy sat on the mule. John took one horse with the money bag. Jefferson led the other horse along the steep, dangerous path. It was a hard road. On one side, a black cliff rose like a wall, with long stone ribs. On the other side, a wild pile of rocks blocked the way. The track ran between, narrow and rough. In places they rode in a line. Only good riders could pass at all. Still, their hearts were light. Each step took them farther from the cruel rule they were fleeing. Soon they learned they were still inside the reach of the saints. They were in the wildest part of the pass when Lucy gave a cry and pointed up. On a rock over the path stood a lone guard, black against the sky. He saw them as they saw him. His challenge rang through the quiet ravine. "Who goes there?" "Travelers for Nevada," Jefferson said, his hand on his rifle. They saw the guard touch his gun and bend to look down. He did not like their answer. "By whose permission?" he asked. "The Holy Four," John answered. His time among the Mormons had taught him the highest name to use. "9 from 7, the guard called. 7 from 5, Jefferson replied at once, remembering the countersign he had heard in the garden. "Pass, and the Lord go with you," the voice said. Beyond the post, the path grew wider. The horses trotted. When they looked back, they saw the lone guard leaning on his gun. They knew they had passed the last watch of the chosen people. Freedom lay ahead. Chapter 5. The Avenging Angels. All night they moved through narrow mountain paths. The ground was rough and full of rocks. More than once they missed the way, but Jefferson Hope knew these mountains well. He always found the right track again. When morning came, a wild and beautiful sight opened before them. Snow lay on many great peaks, and the peaks stood all around, shoulder to shoulder as far as they could see. The sides of the valley were so steep that the larch and the pine seemed to hang over their heads. It looked as if a strong wind could throw the trees down at any moment. This fear was not only in their minds. The floor of the valley was covered with old fallen trees and broken stones. As they passed, a huge rock fell from above with a hoarse rattle. The sound ran along the quiet walls and woke long echoes. The tired horses jumped forward in fear. The sun rose slowly in the east. One by one, the white caps of the mountains caught the light as if lamps were lit for a feast. Soon every peak was red and shining. The grand sight cheered the three who were running away. It gave them new strength. They stopped by a fast white stream that ran out of a narrow cut. They let the horses drink and ate a quick breakfast. Lucy and her father wanted to rest longer, but Jefferson was firm. "They will be on our track now," he said. "Speed is everything. Once we are safe in Carson, we can rest for the rest of our lives." They pushed on all that day through cut after cut between the rocks. By evening, they thought they were more than 30 miles from their enemies. At night, they chose the foot of a high, hanging rock that could break the cold wind. They held each other close for warmth and slept a few hours. Before the first light, they were on the move again. They had seen no sign of men behind them. Jefferson began to hope that the long arm of that terrible power could not reach this far. He did not know how far its iron hand could stretch, or how soon it would close on them. By the middle of the second day, their small store of food was almost gone. Jefferson did not worry much. There was game in the high country, and more than once in his life he had lived by his gun. He chose a hollow out of the wind, piled dry branches, and made a bright, hot fire for Lucy and her father, for they were near 5,000 feet above the sea. The air was sharp and cold. He tied the horses, told Lucy goodbye for a little while, put the rifle on his shoulder, and went to hunt. He looked back once. The old man and the young girl were crouching by the blaze, and the 3 animals stood still behind them. Then rocks hid them from his sight. He walked through one narrow valley after another for some miles and saw nothing he could shoot. The bark of trees showed deep scratches, and he saw other marks. He knew there were many bears near. After 2 or 3 hours with no luck, he was about to turn back in despair. Then he looked up and saw a sight that filled him with joy. High on the sharp edge of a rock, 300 or 400 feet above, stood an animal, like a sheep with huge curling horns. It was a bighorn, the mountain sheep. It was most likely standing guard while the flock fed somewhere out of sight. Its head was turned away. It did not see him. Jefferson lay flat, rested the rifle on a stone, took a slow, careful aim, and fired. The animal sprang up, stood a moment on the very rim, then fell and crashed down into the valley. It was too heavy to carry whole. Jefferson cut off one hindquarter and part of the side. He put the meat on his shoulder and hurried back. The light was already fading. Soon he found that he had a new problem. Eager to hunt, he had gone far past the places he knew well. Now the valley split into many side cuts. Each looked like the others. He went down one for more than a mile and came to a stream he had never seen. He turned and tried another. The same thing happened. Night came on fast. Before the moon rose, he at last found a cut that he knew. Even then it was hard to keep to the right path. The cliffs were high and made the dark even darker. The load on his shoulder was heavy. He was very tired. Still, he kept up his heart. Each step, he told himself, brought him closer to Lucy and to food for the rest of their journey. He reached the mouth of the very cut where he had left them. Even in the dark, he knew the line of the cliffs. They must be watching for him, he thought, for he had been gone almost 5 hours. Glad and light at heart, he put his hands to his mouth and sent a long, loud call up the glen to say he was coming. He stopped and listened. No answer came. Only his own cry ran along the empty rock walls and came back to him again and again. He called once more, louder. Still there was no sound from the friends he had left not long ago. A cold fear without a name took him by the throat. He ran forward, trembling, and even let the precious meat fall from his shoulder. He turned a corner and saw the place where the fire had been. A little heap of red ash still glowed, but nobody had touched it for some time. All around was dead silence. His fears turned into a hard, clear truth. He ran on. No living thing stood by the burnt wood. The horses were gone. The old man was gone. The young girl was gone. The place was bare. In the short time he had been away, some sudden, terrible thing had happened. It had taken them all and left no sign. Jefferson's head swam. He leaned on his rifle, or he would have fallen. But he was a man who acted. He shook off the shock. He took a half-burnt stick from the ash and blew it to a flame. With a small light, he searched the ground. He saw many hoof marks. A large band of horsemen had reached the camp. The tracks pointed back the way to Salt Lake City. Had they taken both Lucy and her father? Jefferson almost made himself believe it. Then he saw something that made his whole body sting. A little way from the fire, there was a low pile of red dirt that had not been there before. It could only be a new grave. He went to it. A stick stood at the head. A sheet of paper was split into the fork of the stick. The words were short. John Ferrier, formerly of Salt Lake City, died August 4th, 1860. The brave old farmer was gone. This was his last mark in the world. Jefferson stared around for a second grave. There was none. Lucy had been carried back by their hard enemies to the life they had planned for her. She would be shut up as a wife to the son of an elder. When Jefferson knew this was true and knew there was nothing he could have done, he wished he, too, lay under the fresh earth beside his friend. But his strong spirit did not lie down for long. If nothing else was left, he could give his life to one thing: revenge. He had great patience and courage. He also had a steady, burning hate that did not grow cold, perhaps learned from the tribes he had lived among. Standing by the dead fire, he felt there was only one way to ease his pain. He would bring a full and fair payment with his own hand to the men who had done this. He would set his will and his strength to this task alone. He went back for the meat, made up enough food for a few days, and, though he was worn out, he turned his face toward the mountains and began to follow the track of the avenging angels. For 5 days he walked, footsore and tired, through the same cuts and passes he had ridden before. At night he lay among the rocks and slept a little. Before dawn he was on the move again. On the 6th day he reached Eagle Canyon, where their unlucky flight had begun. From there he could look down at the city of the saints. He leaned on his gun. His face was thin and long. He shook his hand at the broad, quiet town below. He saw flags in the main streets and other signs of a feast. He was still wondering what it all meant when a horse came fast along the path. He knew the rider at once. It was a Mormon named Cowper whom he had helped more than once. Jefferson stepped out and stopped him. He needed news of Lucy. "I am Jefferson Hope," he said. "You remember me." The Mormon stared. It was hard to know the clean young hunter in this ragged, wild man with a white, drawn face and burning eyes. When he was sure, his shock turned to fear. "You are mad to be here," he said. "It could cost me my life to speak to you. The Holy Four have a warrant for you, for helping the farriers to run away." "I don't fear them or their paper," said Jefferson. "You must know something, Cowper. By all you love, answer me. We were friends. For God's sake, tell me what I ask." "What is it?" said the Mormon, looking around. "Be quick. The rocks have ears and the trees have eyes." "What has happened to Lucy Ferrier?" "She was married yesterday to young Drebber," he said. "Stand up, man. Don't fall." "Don't mind me," Jefferson whispered. His lips were white. He slid down against a stone. "Married?" "Married yesterday. That is why the flags are on the endowment house. There was trouble between young Drebber and young Stangerson about who should have her. They both rode in the party that chased you. Stangerson shot her father, so he thought he had the better right. But in council, Drebber's friends were stronger, so the prophet gave her to Drebber. She will not be long here. I saw death on her face. She looked like a ghost. Are you going now?" "Yes," said Jefferson. He stood up. His face was like cut stone, and his eyes burned with a dark light. "Where are you going?" "Never mind," he said. He threw the gun strap over his shoulder and walked away down the cut into the wild hills. Of all the wild things there, none was as fierce and dangerous as he was. The Mormon's sad words came true. The terrible end of her father and the hateful marriage broke Lucy's heart. She never lifted her head again. In less than a month, she died. Her heavy drinking husband had married her for John Ferrier's land and money. He did not show much sorrow, but the other wives cried and kept watch with her body the night before the burial, as their custom was. They sat quietly around the bed in the first hours of morning. Suddenly the door burst open. A hard, weather-beaten man in torn clothes strode in. He did not look at the frightened women. He went straight to the white, still figure that had once held the pure soul of Lucy Ferrier. He bent and kissed her cold forehead with great respect. Then he lifted her hand and slipped the wedding ring from her finger. "She will not be buried with that," he said in a low, fierce voice. Before anyone could cry out, he ran down the stairs and was gone. It all happened so fast that the watchers could hardly believe it, and others might not have believed them. But one plain fact could not be denied. The gold ring that showed she had been a bride was gone. For some months, Jefferson stayed in the mountains. He lived like a wild man. He fed and warmed a hot wish for revenge. In the city, people told stories of a strange shape that walked at night near the edge of the town and in the lonely cuts among the hills. A bullet once sang through Stangerson's window and hit the wall a foot from his head. On another day, as Drebber rode under a cliff, a great stone fell. He was saved only by throwing himself flat. The two young men soon knew who was after them. They led many hunting groups into the hills to catch or kill their enemy. They failed each time. After that, they never went out alone or after dark, and guards watched their houses. Later, they grew tired of fear and relaxed. No one saw or heard anything more. They thought time had cooled his hate. But time did not cool it. It made it stronger. The hunter's mind was hard and steady. Revenge took all the room in it. Still, he was a practical man. He saw that even a strong body could not stand such strain. Cold, hunger, and bad food were wasting him. If he died in a hole like a dog, who would take his revenge then? A death like that would help his enemies. So he did the wise thing. He went back to the old mines in Nevada. He rested, ate well, and worked to save money for the task he had set himself. He planned to be away 1 year at most, but many small troubles joined together and kept him there for nearly 5. Even so, his memory of his pain and his wish to punish were as sharp as on the night he stood by John Ferrier's grave. He changed his look and took a false name. He went back to Salt Lake City. He did not care what happened to him, if only he could get justice. There he heard bad news. The chosen people had split. Some of the young men had fought against the rule of the elders. A number of them left Utah and became Gentiles. Drebber and Stangerson were among those who went. No one knew where they had gone. People said Drebber had turned much of his land into money and had left rich. Stangerson was far less rich, but there was no clue at all. Many men, even angry men, would have given up. Jefferson did not. With a little money of his own and odd jobs here and there, he went from town to town across the United States to find the two men. Years passed. His black hair turned gray. He still walked on like a bloodhound with one thought in his mind. At last he had his reward. He saw a face in a window for just a second, and that second told him enough. The men he hunted were in Cleveland, Ohio. He went back to his poor room and set out his plan. But Drebber also looked from his window that day. He knew the ragged man in the street, and he saw murder in his eyes. He ran to a judge with Stangerson, who was now his private secretary. They said their lives were in danger from a jealous old rival. That evening, officers arrested Jefferson Hope. He could not find anyone to pay money for his release, so he had to stay in jail for some weeks. When he got out, the house was empty. Drebber and Stangerson had gone to Europe. Once more, he was stopped. Once more, his strong hate pushed him forward. He needed money. He worked again and saved every coin. At last, he had enough to live simply and move. He sailed for Europe. He followed his enemies from city to city, taking any small job to stay alive. He never quite caught up. When he reached St. Petersburg, they had gone to Paris. When he reached Paris, they had just left for Copenhagen. In the Danish city, he was a few days late again. They had moved on to London. There at last he found them and held them in sight. Of what followed, it is best to give the old hunter's own story, as Dr. Watson wrote it in his journal. Chapter 6. A continuation of the reminiscences of John Watson, M.D. Our prisoner fought hard at first, but after we tied him, he smiled in a friendly way. He hoped he had not hurt us. He said to Sherlock Holmes, "You are taking me to the police. My cab is at the door. If you untie my legs, I will walk. I am not as light as I was." Gregson and Lestrade looked at each other. They thought this was bold. Holmes agreed at once. He untied the towel from the man's ankles. The prisoner stood up and stretched his legs to check they were free. As I watched, I thought I had rarely seen a stronger man. His dark, sunburned face showed a firm will and great energy to match his strong body. "If there is an open job for chief of police, you should have it," he said, staring at Holmes with open praise. "The way you followed me was a wonder." "You had better come with me," Holmes said to the two detectives. "I will drive you," said Lestrade. "Good," said Holmes. "Gregson can sit inside with me. You too, Doctor. You care about this case, so come along." I gladly agreed. We all went down together. The prisoner did not try to run. He stepped calmly into his own cab. We followed. Lestrade climbed up to the box, took the reins, and drove us quickly to the police station. They showed us into a small room. A police inspector wrote down the prisoner's name and the names of the men he was said to have killed. The inspector had a white face and little feeling. He did his work slowly and without color. "The prisoner will see the magistrates this week," he said. "In the meantime, Mr. Jefferson Hope, do you wish to say anything? I must warn you. We will write down your words. They may be used against you." "I have a lot to say," the prisoner answered slowly. "Save it for your trial," the inspector said. "I may never be tried," he answered. "Do not be shocked. I do not mean suicide. Are you a doctor?" He turned his fierce dark eyes on me. "Yes, I am," I said. "Then put your hand here," he said, smiling. He lifted his tied wrists toward his chest. I placed my hand there. At once I felt a strange, strong throb and shaking inside. The walls of his chest trembled like a thin house when a huge machine is running. In the quiet room I could hear a dull humming from the same place. "You have an aortic aneurysm," I cried. "That is the name," he said calmly. "A doctor told me last week that it will burst in a few days. It has grown worse for years. I got it from cold and hunger in the Salt Lake Mountains. I have finished my work now. I do not care how soon I die. But I wish to tell what happened. I do not want people to think I was just a low, common killer." The inspector and the detectives spoke together in a hurry. They asked if it was wise to let him speak. "Doctor, is there immediate danger?" the inspector asked me. "Yes," I said, "most certainly." "In that case," said the inspector, "it is our duty to take his words now. Sir, you may speak. I warn you again, we will write it down." "With your leave, I will sit," the prisoner said, and he sat down. "This bad heart makes me tired. Our fight half an hour ago did not help. I stand close to the grave. I will not lie. Every word is true. How you use my words is nothing to me." Jefferson Hope leaned back and began his strange story. He spoke calm and clear, as if these events were simple daily things. I can say it was correct, for I saw Lestrade's notes, where every word was taken down as he spoke. "It does not matter to you why I hated those men," he said. "It is enough that they caused the death of a father and a daughter. For that they lost the right to live. After so many years, I knew no court could punish them. But I knew the truth. I chose to be judge, jury, and the one who carries out the sentence. If you were men, and if you stood in my place, you would have done the same. That girl was going to marry me 20 years ago. She was forced to marry Drebber and died of a broken heart. I took the ring from her dead finger. I swore that his dying eyes would see that ring, and that his last thought would be of the crime he was punished for. I kept that ring on me. I followed him and his helper across 2 continents until I caught them. They tried to tire me out. They failed. If I die tomorrow, I die knowing my work is done and well done. They died by my hand. There is nothing more I want. They were rich. I was poor. It was hard to follow them. When I came to London, I had almost no money. I had to earn my bread. Driving is as easy to me as walking, so I went to a cab owner and got work. I had to bring him a set sum each week. What I earned above that was mine. There was seldom much extra, but I got by. The hardest thing was to learn the city. Of all the puzzles in the world, this one is the worst. I kept a map by me. After I marked the big hotels and stations, I did better. It took time to find where my two gentlemen lived. I asked and asked until I found them. They were in a boarding house in Camberwell, on the far side of the river. Once I found them, I knew I had them. I had grown my beard. They could not know me. I would follow them and wait. I would not let them escape again. Even then, they almost did. Wherever they went in London, I was there behind them. Sometimes I followed on foot. Sometimes I followed with my cab. The cab was best. Then they could not shake me. I earned money only early morning or late at night. I fell behind with the owner. I did not care, as long as I kept those men in sight. They were very clever. They may have feared a chase. They never went out alone and never after dark. For 2 weeks I followed them every day. They never once split apart. Drebber was drunk half the time. Stangerson stayed sharp. I watched day and night. I saw no chance. Still, I did not lose heart. I felt the time was near. My only fear was that my heart would burst before I finished. At last, one evening I drove up and down their street, Torquay Terrace. I saw a cab stop at their door. Luggage came out. Then Drebber and Stangerson came down and drove away. I whipped up my horse and kept them in sight. I was uneasy. I feared they were moving away. At Euston Station they got out. I left a boy to hold my horse and followed them to the platform. I heard them ask for the Liverpool train. The guard said one had just gone. The next would be in some hours. Stangerson was unhappy. Drebber seemed glad. I got close in the crowd. I heard each word. Drebber said he had a private matter and would come back soon. His friend warned him. They had promised to stay together. Drebber swore and told him he was only a paid servant and must not give orders. Then the secretary gave in. He said, "If you miss the last train, meet me at Halliday's private hotel." Drebber said he would be back before 11 and walked out. My moment had come at last. Together they could guard each other. Alone, each was in my power. I did not rush. My plan was ready. Revenge is no joy unless the man understands who strikes him and why. I had a safe place. Some days earlier, a gentleman had looked at houses on Brixton Road. He dropped a key in my cab. He came for it that night, and I gave it back. But first I took a mold and had a copy made. With that, I had a quiet spot in this great city, a place where no one would stop me. The hard part was to bring Drebber to that house. He walked down the road and went into some bars. He stayed half an hour in the last one. When he came out, he could hardly walk straight. A hansom stood in front of me. He called it. I followed so close my horse's nose was a yard from the driver. We rattled over Waterloo Bridge and through many streets. To my surprise, we came back to the same terrace. I could not guess why. I went on, then stopped my cab about 100 yards away. He went in. His hansom drove off. "Please, a glass of water. My mouth is dry." I handed him water. He drank. "That is better," he said. I waited 15 minutes or more. Then I heard noise inside the house like a fight. The door flew open. 2 men came out. One was Drebber. The other was a young man I had never seen. The young man held Drebber by the collar. At the top of the steps he pushed and kicked Drebber. Drebber flew half across the road. "You hound!" the young man cried, shaking his stick. "I will teach you not to insult an honest girl." He was so angry, I think he would have beaten Drebber if the coward had not run. Drebber ran to the corner. He saw my cab. He called me and jumped in. "Halliday's private hotel," he said. When he was inside my cab, my heart leapt for joy. I feared my bad heart would burst. I drove slowly and thought, I could take him to the country. In some empty lane I could have my last talk with him. I almost chose that. Then he chose for me. The drink craving took him again. He told me to stop at a gin palace. He went in and told me to wait. He stayed until closing time. When he came out, he was so drunk I knew the game was mine. I did not plan to kill him in cold blood. It would have been strict justice, but I could not do it that way. I had decided long ago that he should have a small chance. In America, I once worked as a cleaner and porter in the lab at York College. One day, a professor taught about poisons. He showed the students an alkaloid from a South American arrow poison. He said the smallest grain meant instant death. I saw the bottle where he kept it. When they all left, I took a little. I was a fair hand at mixing. I made tiny, soluble pills. In each little box, I put one deadly pill and one harmless pill. I said to myself, when my day comes, each man shall draw from a box. I will take the pill he does not take. It would kill as surely as a shot, and more quietly. From that day, I always carried the pill boxes. Now the time had come. It was near 1 a.m. The night was wild and cold, with hard wind and heavy rain. Outside it was sad, but I was glad. So glad I could have shouted for joy. If any of you have wanted one thing for 20 years and at last touched it, you know how I felt. I lit a cigar to steady my hands. Still, my hands shook. My temples beat. As I drove, I saw old John Ferrier and sweet Lucy in the dark before me, smiling at me. All the way they rode ahead, one on each side of the horse, until I stopped at the house on Brixton Road. No one was there. I heard only the drip of the rain. I looked in the window. Drebber lay curled up, drunk. I shook his arm. "Time to get out," I said. "All right, cabby," he said. He must have thought we were at the hotel. He got out and followed me down the garden. I walked by him to keep him steady. At the door I opened it and led him into the front room. I swear to you, the father and daughter walked in front of us all the way. "It is very dark," he said, stamping. "We will have light," I said. I struck a match and lit a wax candle I had brought. "Now, Enoch Drebber," I said, turning the light on my face, "who am I?" He stared at me with dull, drunk eyes for a moment. Then terror jumped into them and shook his whole face. He knew me. He drew back. His face went pale. Sweat ran down his brow. His teeth hit together. I leaned my back on the door and laughed long. I knew revenge would be sweet. I did not know it would fill my whole heart like this. "You dog," I said. "I hunted you from Salt Lake City to St. Petersburg. You always slipped away. Now your road is done. Either you or I will not see the sun rise." He drew back more. He thought I was mad. I was, for a time. My temples beat like hammers. I think I would have had a fit, but blood ran from my nose and eased me. "What do you think of Lucy Ferrier now?" I cried. I locked the door and shook the key in his face. "Your punishment was slow, but it came." His coward lips shook. He would have begged, but he knew it was no use. "Will you murder me?" he stammered. "This is not murder," I said. "Who calls it murder to kill a mad dog? What mercy did you show my dear girl when you dragged her from her dead father and took her to your dirty harem?" "I did not kill her father," he cried. "But you broke her innocent heart," I yelled. I held out the little box. "Let God judge between us. Choose and eat. One is death, one is life. I will take the one you leave. Let us see if there is justice on earth or just chance." He cowered. He cried. He prayed. I took out my knife and held it at his throat until he chose. Then I swallowed the other pill. We stood and looked at each other in silence for a minute, waiting to see who would live. I will never forget his face when the first pain told him the poison was working. I laughed and held Lucy's ring before his eyes. It was only a moment. The alkaloid acts fast. Pain twisted his face. He stretched out his hands. He staggered. With a hoarse cry, he fell. I turned him with my foot and put my hand on his heart. No movement. He was dead. Blood ran from my nose, but I had ignored it. I do not know why I wrote on the wall with it. Maybe I wanted to fool the police for fun. I felt happy and light. I remembered a German found in New York with RACHE written above him. The papers said secret groups had killed him. I thought what puzzled New York might puzzle London. I dipped my finger in my own blood and wrote it on the wall. Then I went back to my cab. No one was around. The night was still wild. I had driven some way when I felt for Lucy's ring. It was gone. I was shocked. It was my only keepsake of her. I thought I dropped it when I bent over Drebber. I turned back. I left my cab in a side street and went straight to the house. I was ready to risk anything rather than lose the ring. At the door, I walked right into a police officer. He was coming out. I made him think I was very drunk. He let me go. That is how Enoch Drebber died. All I had left was to do the same for Stangerson and pay John Ferrier's debt. I knew Stangerson was at Halliday's private hotel. I waited all day. He did not come out. I think he guessed something when Drebber did not show up. He was cunning and careful. If he thought he could stop me by staying inside, he was wrong. I found his bedroom window. Early next morning, I used some ladders from the lane behind the hotel. I climbed in at dawn. I woke him. I told him his hour had come. I told him how Drebber died and gave him the same choice of pills. He did not take the chance. He jumped from his bed and grabbed my throat. I stabbed him in the heart to save myself. It would have ended the same way. God would not let his guilty hand pick the safe pill. I have little more to add, and I am very tired. I drove my cab a day or so more. I planned to save money and go back to America. I stood in the yard when a ragged boy asked if there was a cabbie named Jefferson Hope. He said a gentleman at 221B Baker Street wanted his cab. I went there. I did not fear harm. The next thing I knew, this young man had the irons on my wrists, as neat as any I ever saw. That is all. You may call me a murderer. I say I am as much an officer of justice as you are. We were all silent. His story was so strong, and he spoke with such force, that even the two trained detectives sat still and listened hard. When he stopped, no one spoke for a few minutes, except for the scratch of Lestrade's pencil as he finished his notes. "There is one thing I would like to know," Sherlock Holmes said at last. "Who was your friend who came for the ring I advertised?" The prisoner winked at Holmes with a little joke. "I can tell my own secrets," he said, "but I will not bring trouble on others. I saw your ad. I thought it might be a trap or it might be the ring. My friend said he would go. You must agree he did it well." "No doubt," Holmes said warmly. "Now, gentlemen," the inspector said, serious again, "we must follow the law. On Thursday, the prisoner will go before the magistrates. You must attend. Until then, I am responsible for him." He rang the bell. Two warders led Jefferson Hope away. Holmes and I went out of the station and took a cab back to Baker Street. Chapter 7. The Conclusion. We were told to go to court on Thursday, but on Thursday our words were not needed. A higher judge had already called Jefferson Hope. He died in his cell in the night. The swelling in his chest burst. In the morning he lay on the floor with a calm smile on his face. It looked as if, at the end, he saw a useful life and work well done. "Gregson and Lestrade will be very angry," Holmes said to me the next evening. "Where is their big show now?" "I don't think they did much to catch him," I said. "What you truly do does not matter much in this world," Holmes said, a little bitter. "What matters is what people can be made to believe. Never mind," he added more brightly. "I would not have missed this case for anything. It was the best case I can remember. It was simple, and it taught many good lessons." "Simple?" I cried. "Well, yes," said Sherlock Holmes with a smile. "It was simple inside. Look at the proof. With only a few plain thoughts, I caught the man in 3 days." "That is true," I said. "I told you before," he went on, "that what is strange often helps instead of blocking us. The great skill is to reason backwards. Many people do not practice that. In daily life, people reason forwards. So the other way is forgotten. 50 can put facts together and guess what will happen. Only 1 in 50 can be told a result and work out, step by step, what must have happened first. That is what I call reasoning backwards." "I see," I said. "In this case we were given the end," he said, "and we had to find all the steps. Now I will show you my steps." I came to the house on foot. My mind was clear. I looked first at the road. I saw the marks of a cab. I checked and learned a cab had been there in the night. I knew it was a cab and not a private carriage because the wheels were close together. A London cab is narrower than a gentleman's brougham. That was my first point. I walked slowly down the garden path. The path was clay. Clay shows marks very well. To you it looked like one dirty line. To me, every mark had a meaning. Footsteps are a great science, and most people neglect it. I have studied it hard. I saw the heavy marks of the police. I also saw the earlier track of 2 men. I knew they came first because later feet had stepped on top of their marks. So I learned there were 2 night visitors. One had a long step. He was very tall. The other left small, neat boot marks. He was well dressed. In the house, this last idea was proved. The well-booted man lay dead. So the tall one had done the killing, if there was a killing. There was no wound on the body, but the face was full of fear. He had seen his death coming. Men who die from a sudden natural cause do not leave such a look. I smelled a sour odor on his lips. I concluded that poison had been forced on him. The fear and hate on his face showed it was forced. No other idea fit all the facts. Such a crime is not new. Others have done the same. Next came the reason. It was not robbery. Nothing was taken. Was it politics? Or a woman? Political killers do their work and flee. Here the man stayed a long time. His steps were all over the room. So it was a private wrong and a careful revenge. When we saw the writing on the wall, I was even more sure. That word was a trick. When the ring was found, the case was settled. The ring was used to remind the victim of a woman he had wronged. At that point, I asked Gregson if he had asked Cleveland a special question about Mr. Drebber's past. He had not. You remember that? I then searched the room closely. I confirmed the height of the murderer. I found more small facts, like his Trichinopoly cigar and the long nails of his fingers. There were no signs of a fight. The blood on the floor, then, was from the murderer's nose, broken by emotion. The blood drops matched his foot track. Only a very full-blooded man breaks out like that, so I guess the killer was strong and red-faced. Events proved I was right. When I left the house, I did what Gregson should have done. I sent a telegram to the head of police in Cleveland. I asked only about Enoch Drebber's marriage. The answer gave the key. It said Drebber had asked the law to protect him from an old rival in love named Jefferson Hope, and that Hope was in Europe. Now I had the clue. I only had to take the man. I had already decided that the man who walked in with Drebber was the same as the man who drove the cab. The horse had wandered in a way that showed no one held the reins. Where was the driver? He must have been inside the house. No sane man would do a crime in front of a third person who could tell. Also, if a man wished to follow another in London, what better than to be a cab driver? So I had to look for Jefferson Hope among the cabmen of the city. If he had become a cabman, why stop now? A sudden change would draw eyes to him. He would likely keep on for a while. Why use a false name? No one in London knew his real one. So I set my street boys to work. I sent them to every cab owner in London. They found the man I needed. You remember how well they did and how fast I acted. The murder of Stangerson was a surprise. No one could have stopped it, but through it I got the pills. I had already guessed they existed. You see, the whole case was one clear chain. Each link followed from the last. There was no break. "It is wonderful," I cried. "People should honor you for this. Will you publish the case? If you will not, I will do it for you." "You may do as you like, Doctor," Holmes said. "Look at this." He handed me the day's paper, the Echo. He pointed to a paragraph about the case. "The public," it said, "have lost a great show because of the death of Hope, who was suspected of killing Mr. Enoch Drebber and Mr. Joseph Stangerson. The true story may never be known now. We are told by good sources that the crime came from an old romantic fight of love and Mormon faith. It seems both men had once been Latter-day Saints, and Hope was also from Salt Lake City. The case shows the great skill of our detective police. It teaches foreigners to end their quarrels at home, not in Britain. It is an open secret that all the credit for the clever capture belongs to the famous Scotland Yard men, Mr. Lestrade and Mr. Gregson. The man was taken, it appears, in the rooms of a Mr. Sherlock Holmes, who, as an amateur, has shown some small talent. With such teachers, he may hope someday to reach a fair level. A gift from the public is expected for the two officers as a proper thank you. Did I not tell you this at the start? Holmes laughed. All our red study ends with a prize for them. Never mind, I said. I have written every fact in my journal. The public will learn the truth. For now, be happy with the knowledge of success. A Roman once said, "People hiss at me, but at home I smile to myself when I look at my money in the box."